Zhang Bin. This punk might be tall, dark, and handsome, but he's got the maturity of a toddler, and he just so happens to command a legion of 5,000 dwarves. Yet he's obsessed with bullying Hanyu, a complete outcast, trying to steal what little divine power he has. To be precise, Hanyu is currently a trash tier with a locust core. You see, just one day ago, Hanyu was isekai'd. He landed in a world where anyone can cultivate their way to godhood. Other transmigrators become the chosen ones, blessed with all sorts of powerful skills. But Hanyu, he drew the short straw, transmigrating into the body of a pathetic, useless weakling who had just awakened his divine domain. At 18 years old, all he got was a core swarm of locusts. Before passing away, his grandfather, his only relative, told Hanyu that he must find his parents, who went missing in the chaotic star sea of the Imperial Capital Academy. According to the original owner's memories, Hanyu was always a target for bullies, partly because his one-of-a-kind good looks attracted a certain someone. The seductive Qin Shuang was constantly offering to make him her personal slave. At the same time, she also made him a pretty, tempting offer. She could protect him until high school graduation from that guy, Zhang Bin, who was always threatening to destroy Hanyu's core and cripple him for life. What a mess, getting caught in the crossfire just for existing. Anyway, back to the story. To get into the Imperial Capital Academy and find his parents, with his pathetic amount of divine power, it would probably take 3 lifetimes for Hanyu before he could even set foot on campus. First, he had to get past that blonde-haired punk, but just letting someone walk all over him wasn't his style. Hanyu turned over in his pod and connected to his divine domain. Login successful. When Hanyu opened his eyes, he found himself in a vast grassland. It was a dreamlike place, green and filled with sun and wind. And right in front of him was a swarm of locusts, his core kinsfolk. A bunch of lazy locusts were just chilling, enjoying the lush green grass. Following his memories, Hanyu opened his personal information system screen. To his surprise, it seems the heavens had taken pity on this poor soul, and blessed him with the divine talent skill and a divine ability. With this heaven-defying cheat, he could fulfill his grandfather's dying wish. Looking at the system again, Hanyu noticed that these locusts had a certain trait. They reproduce incredibly fast. So, he decided to make a huge gamble. It was all or nothing. Better to burn out in a blaze of glory than to flicker and fade away. The next day back at school, Qin Shuang came to ask Hanyu if he had an answer to her offer. But Hanyu refused her again. Soon after, that jerk Zhang Bin and his cronies showed up to cause trouble. They demanded 100 divine power from him. Hanyu frowned, stood his ground, and challenged them to a fight. Spurred on by the gossiping crowd, the prideful blonde pulled out an entry card worth 10 divine power points. After locking onto a target, it creates a portal into their divine domain. A vortex sucked Hanyu right in. Before him stood a colossal gate, 1,000 feet high. A clap of thunder tore through the sky as a horde of not-so-short, green-skinned dwarves marched menacingly through the gate under Zhang Bin's command. His plan was to shatter Hanyu's core. Outside, everyone was watching the battle between Zhang Bin and Hanyu, and they were all excitedly placing bets, certain that Zhang Bin would win and Hanyu would be utterly destroyed. Back in the fight, between the two, Hanyu ordered his swarm of self-destructing locusts to attack, but these locusts were red, a stark difference from the lazy green ones we saw earlier. This time, they appeared with a ferocious, aggressive look. As both sides charged into battle, neither giving an inch, the air was instantly filled with the sound of endless explosions, and smoke billowed everywhere. Hanyu smiled, very pleased with this result. The day before, Hanyu had performed a ritual, sacrificing the lives of 2.49 billion locusts, keeping only 100,000 to preserve the species. As the sacrificial flame blazed, the system screen presented Hanyu with 3 choices. He weighed his options carefully. Option 1 was 10,000 elite goblin warriors. While they could solve his immediate problem, they were a one-time use item. Once they were gone, they were gone. He might survive this fight, but what about the next one? The second choice was the Spring of Life. That was a long-term investment, something Hanyu definitely needed, but it couldn't deal with tomorrow's threat. And the final choice was the Cracked Heart, a grade 1+ holy artifact. After being placed in the center of the divine domain, it had a certain probability of producing core kinsfolk with explosive power. After some thought, he decided on the third option. It was the most suitable choice for his current situation, and thus, the elite creature, the self-destructing locust, was born. Hanyu picked one up to test it. He threw the self-destructing locust forward and saw that its destructive power definitely couldn't kill a normal dwarf on its own. But in large numbers, their destructive power was as terrifying as a B-52 bomber. As the smoke slowly cleared, the battlefield revealed a single elite dwarf, still alive but heavily injured, standing amidst the thousands of its dead comrades lying strewn across the ground. Model. Seeing the tide turn against him, Zhang Bin ordered his surviving dwarf army to retreat back to his divine domain. But Han Yu wasn't about to let them off that easily. He commanded his entire swarm of familiars to charge through the portal, redirecting their invasion. They were to enter Zhang Bin's divine domain and blow it to smithereens, leaving nothing behind. Zhang Bin was furious, ordering him around like he owned the place. Han Yu, get the hell out of my divine domain. But when he saw his last remaining elite goblin spit up blood, Zhang Bin finally bowed his head in defeat. Too bad for him. Han Yu was the type to hold a grudge. He always gets his revenge, no matter what. At this point, he started screaming threats at Han Yu, bringing up his demigod parents and swearing they would never let him get away with this. Han Yu just gave a cold laugh and ordered his swarm to find and shatter the domain's core, ignoring the bastard's desperate cries and pleas for mercy. Han Yu was completely satisfied with the outcome. He didn't want anything from him. He just wanted Zhang Bin to be utterly destroyed. Suddenly, a voice boomed from above, telling him to stop. It turned out to be Mr. Liu, Han Yu's homeroom teacher. The teacher entered Han Yu's divine domain and advised him, "Stop it. You've already won. There's no need to be so merciless." Seeing his teacher, that punk Zhang Bin was overjoyed, clinging to him like a drowning man to a life raft. But it was too late. The locust swarm had already begun to shatter his core. This power-tripping teacher then demanded Han Yu stop, reprimanding him when he didn't immediately obey. But Han Yu wasn't an idiot. He simply asked the teacher why he had suddenly appeared. The teacher arrogantly and condescendingly replied that if Han Yu stopped first, he would settle the matter peacefully. Han Yu then asked another question. When Zhang Bin was beating me, extorting me, and bullying me, where were you then? Why didn't you show up just in time to help me back then? Mr. Liu was left speechless. Han Yu, completely disappointed, took his silence as the answer he already expected. Just then, Zhang Bin's divine core was completely shattered by the self-destructing locust swarm. Zhang Bin's face turned deathly pale, his expression one of pure agony. He knew that from this moment on, he was nothing more than a useless piece of trash. The battle was over, with Han Yu as the decisive victor. This result sent a shockwave through the crowd of onlookers. After all, who would have ever expected that Han Yu, the loser who was bullied every day, possessed an army of elite locusts? Let alone that he would invade a divine domain and completely shatter Zhang Bin's core. Seething with rage, Mr. Liu stormed into the classroom to expel Han Yu, only to find he had already gone home. Back in his own divine domain, Han Yu began to take stock of his spoils from the battle. Victory had come, but at a considerable cost. Han Yu had obtained a fragment of Zhang Bin's divine power, which he could conveniently merge with his own. As a result, the area of his divine domain expanded significantly. His core rewards included his divine power reaching level 2, a level 1 holy artifact in the form of a dwarven dagger, 820 dwarves, and some iron equipment. Seeing these decent rewards, Han Yu's handsome face practically sparkled. It was enough for him to graduate. But there was just one problem. He remembered Zhang Bin's threat about his parents coming to the school to demand retribution. Han Yu knew he needed to prepare carefully to deal with them. Han Yu opened the system and put the dwarven dagger and iron equipment up for trade. Before long, someone made an offer, a trade for a lava fire crystal X. This item could enhance the durability of fire element familiars and boost their explosive power. Han Yu realized that if he got his hands on it, his self-destructing locusts could be upgraded to a whole new level. It would be like giving a tiger wings, making them unstoppable. Without a second thought, Han Yu agreed to the trade. Instantly, a brilliant, sparkling red crystal materialized in Han Yu's hands. In a flash, a swarm of upgraded locusts appeared. Their new designation was Elite Creature, with the self-destructing familiar talent, fueled by frenzied faith, and a reproduction rate of 12. Han Yu was eager to test them out. He sat down, grabbed one of the locusts, and tossed it forward. They didn't disappoint. Their destructive power was far more terrifying than before. Plus, when they exploded, they now spewed lava, creating massive area of effect damage. Meanwhile, in the teacher's lounge, Zhang Bin's parents were red-faced with fury. Having heard that their son's divine core had been shattered beyond repair, they had come to the school demanding answers. Director Shu was trying to explain to them that their own son was the one who had started the conflict. He also pointed out that Zhang Bin frequently bullied other students and violated school regulations. But the pair refused to accept this explanation, turning the blame back on the school. Zhang Bin's mother adamantly demanded that Han Yu be expelled. Stay tuned to see what happens to Han Yu next. Just as Han Yu was wondering how he could speed up the breeding of another swarm of exploding locusts, he received a call from Director Shu. He told him that Zhang Bin's parents were at the school, demanding his expulsion. No matter what Director Shu said, they refused to accept any form of reconciliation. With the atmosphere at a tense stalemate, with neither side willing to back down, Zhang Bin's father finally spoke up. He said they could accept the school, not punishing Han Yu severely. But as the aggrieved party, they needed an outlet for their anger. He proposed sending a small squad of demigods into Han Yu's divine domain. Whatever the outcome, he promised, they would let the matter drop. Dean Shu had no choice but to concede, which was the greatest protection the school could offer, Han Yu. Han Yu thanked Dean Shu for his help. He had already anticipated this, so he calmly awaited the challenge. After hanging up, it seemed Han Yu needed to quickly level up and perform the life sacrifice. After sacrificing 100 billion locusts for the second time, the system screen appeared with 3 options. Glancing through them, Han Yu considered his choices. Since he had to fight 1,000 demigods, he chose the third option, Slicing Iron Sword Peak, a hero from the Sword Peak tribe. Instantly, Slicing Iron Sword Peak appeared a powerful old man with a commanding presence who requested a sword. Han Yu casually nodded in agreement. No problem. He had already bred a massive number of locusts over the past 2 days. 100 million points of faith power would condense into 1 point of divine power, adding the leftover divine power from when he sold land last time. He had a total of 54 points of divine power. With such meager funds, Han Yu couldn't afford any divine power equipment. He only had enough to buy a piece of faith equipment, the Storm Greatsword, for 50 divine power. Han Yu handed the weapon to Slicing Iron Sword Peak. The old man took it excitedly and gave it a test swing. However, he then said he needed 3 more weapons of the same type to unleash his true power. Han Yu was instantly stunned, breaking into a cold sweat when he realized what was needed. 3 more Storm Greatswords, especially since he was now broke and had to face an army of 1,000 men belonging to the demigod Zhang gang tomorrow. It was a fight he couldn't take lightly, so Han Yu could only try this one last resort. In the divine domain space, Qin Shuang, a beautiful girl with fluffy pink hair, was sitting under an ancient tree, cultivating. Countless thunder sparrows hopped around her. At that moment, her mind was replaying memories of the past. A long time ago, she was carelessly playing and fell into a lake. Luckily, our protagonist, Han Yu, ran over and pulled her to shore. He even performed mouth-to-mouth resuscitation on her, inadvertently stealing the poor girl's first kiss. Remembering this, her face turned beet red as she cursed him for being an idiot. Why did he let that Zhang Bin bully him? Even if he died, she wouldn't care. Qin Shuang thought about her powerful family background. Her grandfather was a god, and she had 23 demigods in her clan. With all that power, how could she not be able to protect Han Yu? Just as she was fuming, she suddenly received a call from him. Qin Shuang answered, asking if he'd changed his mind, and finally agreed to become her servant. But Han Yu, with his will of steel, flatly refused to become a slave to this bossy girl. The real reason he called was just to borrow some divine power. Qin Shuang scoffed, mocking Han Yu for not knowing his place and daring to ask to borrow her divine power. In his current situation, Han Yu was dirt poor. He couldn't even fend for himself, yet he was trying to take on more than he could handle. Was he going to use his trashy clan to pay her back? And he shouldn't think that just because he beat Zhang Bin in the last invasion battle, it meant he was something special. Those self-destructing locusts of his could barely squeeze into the ranks of the elite. They were basically worthless. Hearing Qin Shuang relentlessly berate him, Han Yu couldn't stand the humiliation and simply said goodbye. Then he hung up. Qin Shuang was a bit surprised and immediately regretted her sharp words, realizing her mouth had run ahead of her brain. Afraid he had misunderstood her, she quickly called back. She thought Han Yu would be sulking and ignore her call, but no, with an expressionless face. He answered and asked what she wanted. Embarrassed, Qin Shuang asked how much he needed to borrow and told him to give her his account number. She'd wire it over. After shamelessly managing to borrow the money, Han Yu finally fulfilled the old man Sword Peak's wish. He got 3 more Storm Greatswords, which left him completely bankrupt and drowning in debt. The next day at school, everyone was buzzing about the upcoming battle between Han Yu and Zhang Bin's parents. It was shaping up to be a truly dramatic showdown. The moment Han Yu appeared in class, everyone was stunned. Some were worried for him, while others were just there to watch the drama unfold. Qin Shuang walked over to him and asked, "You borrowed that divine power to level up so you could compete with a demigod, right?" But she was still worried and advised him not to bite off more than he could chew. "Know your limits. There's no way you can handle this." Han Yu replied softly, "I don't have any other choice." Qin Shuang insisted again that if he would just agree to be her slave, she would have her clan put pressure on Zhang, Zhang Bin's father. After all, his family only had one demigod, whereas her family had 23 demigods and one true god. The family tree of this bossy girl was on a completely different level. "Let's see him try to defy us then," she said. Han Yu was exasperated, unable to understand why Qin Shuang was so insistent on him becoming her slave. But he still refused. Qin Shuang snorted and returned to her seat, silently cursing Han Yu for being such an idiot. Just then, Dean Liu entered the classroom, warmly welcoming Zhang Bin's parents and pointing out Han Yu, the one who had personally destroyed the divine core of their son. Seeing him, Zhang Bin's mother, Yu Zhuang, flew into a rage, unleashing a torrent of curses at him for daring to touch her precious son. No matter how much Dean Liu urged him to start the match, Han Yu simply ignored him. He said indifferently, "Only, model." "So, you want to wait for Director Shu to witness this?" Director Liu threatened. "Start immediately, or don't blame me for what happens next." Just as the two were arguing, Director Shu walked into the classroom. That old fox Liu did a complete 180 in the blink of an eye. He respectfully greeted Director Shu. Just then, Zhang Gong said, "Now that everyone's here, let's begin the match." Director Shu's gaze fell upon Han Yu as she asked, "Are you ready?" Han Yu nodded, and Director Shu declared the match had begun. Zhang Gang drew an invasion card to activate it. Han Yu once again entered his own divine domain. The gate opens. A legion of giant, red-eyed werewolves appeared, looking absolutely ferocious. Everyone outside gasped in astonishment. When they saw Zhang Gang's wolf cavalry, they realized they were all elite creatures. Even the captain of the wolf cavalry was an extraordinary life form who had mastered immense power. Furthermore, they were impeccably equipped, with the blue-eyed wolf cavalry and their mounts forming a perfect unit. Can Han Yu possibly overcome this challenge? Zhang Gang stood before his legion of wolf cavalry. He glared at Han Yu and snarled, "I'll make you pay blood for daring to crush Zhang Bin's divine domain core." Even Director Shu was shocked. She hadn't expected Zhang Gang to pull a fast one, exploiting a loophole by claiming he'd only bring a 1,000-man army. But in reality, he brought wolf cavalry, which could clearly be counted separately as 2,000 combat units. This put Han Yu at a severe disadvantage. With that, Zhang Gang ordered his wolf cavalry to charge forward, and the self-destructing locusts of Han Yu also took flight to meet them, swarming like red clouds that blotted out the sky. The two armies clashed. Outside, the atmosphere was just as tense. Everyone was discussing the match, their eyes glued to the screen. Director Liu said with a look of contempt, "The kid's got talent, all right, but this challenge is just too much for him to handle. Otherwise, he could have easily become one of the top students in this school." Suddenly, a collective gasp went through the crowd as they all looked up at the sky. At that moment, thousands of lava locusts appeared, raining down from above. A massive explosion erupted, causing heavy casualties among the werewolves. Everyone's jaw dropped, completely stunned by this turn of events. What was going on? The force of that explosion was immense. And what kind of locusts explode into lava? Director Shu turned and asked, "Are there any teachers or students here with a scouting ability? Please share the information on that locust species with everyone." A student stepped forward. He used his ability to investigate Han Yu's locusts and announced to everyone, "I've got it. That species is called the lava locust. It's an elite species." Hearing this, Director Shu was overjoyed and said encouragingly, "This kid, Han Yu, is amazing." In stark contrast to Director Shu's pride, Zhang Gang scoffed disdainfully. "You think these insects can wipe out my entire wolf cavalry? In your dreams." With that, he unleashed his strongest move. A stream of purple light shot straight into the pack of werewolves. They looked like they'd just chugged a case of energy drinks. Every single one of them let out a deafening roar. The wolves formed perfect lines, tilted their heads to the sky, and unleashed a torrent of blue light from their mouths. This was their ultimate skill, freezing aura, used to counter the fiery bombardment of the lava locusts. It seemed the battle was reaching a stalemate, with neither side gaining an advantage. Everyone watched in awe. He's a demigod, after all. How could he be defeated by a few cheap tricks? That superhuman strength is terrifying, and to be able to unleash a skill with such a wide area of effect Could Han Yu still turn this situation around? What were his chances of winning now that his locust swarm was down to only 500,000? Most of his lava locusts were already gone. Zhang sneered with smug arrogance. "You little mongrel, I'm going to teach you the meaning of despair. Once your core shatters and your divine domain collapses, the school will expel you. And then, your fate will be in my hands." The ferocious wolf cavalry charged straight for the core of Han Yu's divine domain, following Zhang command. Despite this, Han Yu remained perfectly calm, not showing the slightest hint of fear or anxiety. Outside, Director Xu and Qin Shuang's faces were etched with worry, concerned for his safety. Just when it seemed all hope was lost, someone suddenly cried out, "Hey, look! What is that thing in front of Han Yu's divine domain core?" Startled, Qin Shuang stared at the battle screen in disbelief. A towering, colossal figure, wielding 4 swords, stood majestically before Han Yu's divine domain core. It was none other than the Great Blade Storm. Everyone stared, their jaws agape, as they saw the Great Blade Storm and wondered, "Isn't Han Yu an orphan? Where did he get so much money? And what race is that thing?" Director Xu explained, "That's a member of the Bladewind clan. The Bladewind clan is born with naturally superhuman bodies." Another student shot back, "So what if it has a superhuman body? The demigod Zhang has one too, doesn't he? His wolf cavalry captain is also a superhuman, right? Just have the captain hold off that Bladewind clan member while the rest of the cavalry destroys Han Yu's divine domain core." Hearing this, Director Hua furrowed her brow in concern for Han Vu. However, Trong Kuang also took note of the surprising power Han Vu had just displayed. He thought to himself how he had struggled for decades just to nurture a single hero. He couldn't believe that some punk high school kid like Han Vu, who seemed to have no special talent whatsoever, could possess such an elite clan. It felt like a direct slap in the face, a truly stinging humiliation. Trong Kuang ordered his wolf cavalry to charge forward, aiming to seize the hero Swordwind's body and shatter the core of Han Vu's divine domain. Let's see who will get the last laugh in this fight. At Trong Kuang's command, a horde of wolf cavalry charged furiously towards Swordwind. The hero Swordwind sent several werewolves flying with a single swing of his blade. He then advanced on the pack and unleashed his basic level 1 skill, Corpse Wind Slash. It was like a meat grinder, indiscriminately slaughtering over 1,000 wolves. Enraged, the remaining wolves roared and charged forward to avenge their humiliation. Great Tempest Blade raised its 4 sword-wielding arms and unleashed its most powerful skill, Tragic Style. A stream of blue light condensed into a massive, growing circle in the sky. Then, a devastating sword strike began to descend upon the wolf cavalry. It caused an incredibly powerful explosion, leaving everyone gawking in disbelief. "Oh my god, that's insane." When the smoke finally cleared, the hero Swordwind stood tall and proud amidst the mangled remains of thousands of werewolves, the undisputed victor. Seething with rage, Trong Kuang bellowed at the werewolf leader, "Flatten this divine domain for me." Just as the elite clan was preparing to charge, a voice suddenly cut in. "Demigod, do you intend to break our agreement?" Startled, Trong Kuang turned to look. It was the principal. Intimidated, Trong Kuang immediately ordered his wolf cavalry to retreat. The principal looked down at Han Vu and praised him. Not bad at all. As the battle concluded and Han Vu stepped out of his divine domain, he was mobbed by his classmates like a superstar. The first thing Han Vu did was ask Director Hua to let him transfer to a different class. Hearing this, that teacher, Mr. Liu, was stunned and immediately tried to butter him up. "Han Vu, I admit I may have overlooked you in the past, but I promise I will personally guide you from now on," he thought to himself. Based on his performance today, if he keeps this up, he's guaranteed to get into a good university. He might even get into a top-tier university. If he transfers out now, Liu won't get his bonus. Despite Mr. Liu swallowing his pride and pleading with him to stay, Han Vu was adamant about transferring. Director Hua explained, "Transferring classes isn't something you can do just because you feel like it. The school has rules. But if you really want to transfer, I have one condition. You must pass a test arranged by the school. As long as you meet the standard, we can move you to another class." Han Vu excitedly agreed to take the test. But then, Qin Shuang suddenly stood up and asked Director Hua if she could participate as well. Mr. Liu broke out in a cold sweat. "Qin Shuang, if you're unhappy with me about something, you can just tell me. I promise I'll change. There's no need to cause such a scene and demand a transfer." But Qin Shuang ignored his pleas, dead set on transferring. And as if that wasn't enough, the class president, Zhang Xiaolong, also stood up and asked to take the test. At this point, Mr. Liu completely lost it, furious that even his own class president was joining the bandwagon to transfer. Zhang Xiaolong said calmly. Mr. Liu, thank you for your guidance all this time, but I can no longer stay in this class. After saying this, he glanced over at Qin Shuang, thinking to himself, I won't let anyone else have you. So it turns out this guy has a secret crush on her. He's only trying to transfer because she is afraid someone else will snatch her away. But what chance does he even have? She only has eyes for Han Vu. Director Hua agreed, saying the test would be held tomorrow, then told Mr. Liu to come with her. Later that afternoon, Qin Shuang rushed after Han Vu and asked, What kind of hero do you have? Han Vu turned and replied, That's none of your business. Qin Shuang insisted on getting an answer, threatening him with the 150 divine power points he owed her. She warned that if he couldn't pay it back, she'd make him her personal servant to work off the debt. Han Vu frowned. If you want to collect the debt, I can pay you 5 divine power points right now as interest. But if you're trying to find out about my hero, then I'm afraid I can't tell you. With that, he ran off. Qin Shuang stomped her foot in frustration, yelling, You're infuriating. Inside his divine domain, Han Vu was taking stock of his resources. He noticed his locust population was pretty low, which could pose a problem for tomorrow's test. Great Tempest Blade appeared, informing Han Vu that the wolf cavalry that had escaped earlier were now hiding in the mountains. It asked if he wanted to go and annihilate them. Han Vu considered it. He hadn't managed to wipe out all of Trong Quang's wolf cavalry in the last battle. Several dozen must have escaped. They were still inside his divine domain. Were they plotting some kind of dirty trick? He had to deal with them quickly. But just killing them off would be a waste. So, Han Vu ordered Great Tempest Blade, capture all of them and bring them back here. Make sure they stay alive. I have a use for them later. With a group of werewolves captured and kneeling before him, Han Yu opened his system and chose to sacrifice all of them, along with 1 billion normal locusts. The sacrificial flame roared to life, completing the process. Han Yu received 3 items, an alpha mech, a blueprint for a metallurgy furnace, and 3 tower shovels. Han Yu sighed. A mech was great and all, but could his mindless locusts even pilot it? Same with the furnace. Could he really expect locusts to forge anything? When he saw the tower shovels, Han Yu immediately thought of the several hundred dwarves he had gotten from Zhang Bin and wondered how they were doing. Using his eagle-eye view, Han Yu saw a group of dwarves working diligently. They were extremely grateful to Han Yu for giving them this new, better life. By ordering them to mine for minerals, he learned that the dwarves' talent and passion were truly for mining and crafting equipment, much more so than when they were under Zhang Bin. He had taken them as prisoners, forced them to fight, and suppressed their innate abilities in equipment crafting. The dwarves are incredibly skilled. I can have them handle logistics, and that furnace will definitely be put to good use. After thinking it through, Han Yu brought out the large furnace so the dwarves could craft even better equipment. They cheered with joy, thanking the gods for the gift. Down in the meeting room, the teachers were discussing the matter of 3 students, Han Yu, Qin Shuang, and Zhang Xiaolong, who wanted to take the test to transfer classes. Teacher Liu still held a grudge against Han Yu over the previous incident, where Director Xu had scolded him for half a day, causing him to lose his semester's performance bonus. He decided to abuse his power for personal revenge, saying, I want his test to be raised to the highest level of difficulty. A student who shows no respect for his teachers must be severely punished, he said, seeking the agreement of the other teachers to back him up. The next day in Class 3 of the second year, head teacher Liu handed out 3 test papers to the trio, Han Yu, Qin Shuang, and Zhang Xiaolong. When they took the papers and opened them, the tests for the other 2 were identical, but Han Yu was stunned when he saw his own requirements. He had to stop 10,000 foreign invaders from entering. The difficulty was ramped up 10 times higher than the other 2. Seeing that Han Yu's test was far too difficult for his current strength, Xu Mai asked Liu Yuetian, shouldn't you reconsider this? Liu Yuetian put on a stern face and disagreed, saying, this was the decision of all the head teachers. Xu Mai was momentarily at a loss for words. Han Yu accepted the test and said to Xu Mai, Teacher Liu is just hoping I can show my new head teacher what I'm capable of. Liu Yuetian fumed, the disgust clear on his face. Han Yu turned and walked away. Qin Shuang immediately saw that Han Yu was being targeted. She chased after him and once again brought up her offer, asking if he would agree to be her slave. Qin Shuang guaranteed that she wasn't afraid of anyone in this entire school and could protect him from being bullied. Han Yu let out a faint smile. I appreciate the kind offer, but let's talk after the test. With that, Han Yu led the way into the god's domain. Qin Shuang stomped her foot in frustration, muttering, he really doesn't know what's good for him. Zhang Xiaolong witnessed the entire exchange, a malicious glint in his eyes as he plotted a way to humiliate Han Yu. All 3 of them entered the god's domain. The test officially began. Tens of thousands of ferocious, vampire-like aliens invaded the god's domain. Outside, everyone was passionately discussing the battle on the screen. Anyone could tell that Han Yu's test was at the highest difficulty level and would be incredibly hard to pass. Qin Shuang and Zhang Xiaolong quickly passed their tests, wiping out nearly every single invader in their respective gods' domains. But Han Yu alone was lagging behind with no results yet. That's because right now, in his god's domain, there were 10,000 fire-resistant goblins. Han Yu cursed Liu's entire lineage. Damn it, Liu Yu Tian, you're not even human anymore. This was even tougher than Zhang Gang's wolf cavalry. A faint, smug smile remained on Liu Yue Tian's face. If Han Yu wants to blame someone, he should blame himself for refusing my kindness. An army of 10,000 goblins should be enough to tear his god's domain apart. Another student turned to congratulate teacher Liu on his successful revenge. The hypocritical teacher claimed that Han Yu would surely understand his tough love. Shumai's eyes were glued to the screen, just hoping Han Yu could pull through. Inside the god's domain, Han Yu was commanding his locust army to attack. The two sides were locked in an intense battle. The goblins, unwilling to show any weakness, unleashed a rain of fireballs at the locusts, blowing them to bits. Han Yu looked up, watching the situation closely. He saw that his normal insects couldn't deal any damage. He waited for the right moment, then once again unleashed his self-destructing locusts at the goblin horde. A series of deafening explosions echoed relentlessly. The Red Goblin army finally sustained casualties, with 400 of them wiped out. Han Yu continued by sending in the explosive locust generals. This time, they took out 3,000 Red Goblins, but it still wasn't enough. The remaining Red Goblins charged madly towards the core of Han Yu's god's domain. Everyone watched with wide eyes, certain that this was the end for Han Yu. Even if Han Yu still had his trump card, the Swordwind hero, could it possibly be powerful enough to kill another 6,500 Red Goblins? Unable to watch any longer, Shumai secretly sent a voice transmission to advise Han Yu. If you can't take it anymore, just concede defeat. It's okay to fail. I'm sure if you just had a little more time, you'd be able to bounce back quickly. Han Vu resolutely shook his head, refusing to concede. His heroic life form swung out with 4 storm swords. It created a massive whirlwind aimed at the goblin horde. Unwilling to show weakness, they retaliated with a barrage of fireballs. They aimed for the heroic life form. Thanks to its tough physique, it remained standing, though it did sustain some damage. Lu Nyok couldn't suppress a triumphant laugh, thinking he had taught Han Vu a lesson he'd never forget. Suddenly, the crowd gasped and looked up at the screen. After the smoke cleared, a legion of muscle-bound dwarves appeared. Radiating with power, the dwarf legion roared in unison, vowing to protect their god. The red goblins were all completely stunned. Like deer caught in headlights, the dwarves charged forward, weapons in hand, and began to slaughter the goblins. They didn't spare a single one. Everyone's jaws dropped as they watched the tide of the battle turn 180 degrees. They were even more shocked to learn that this was Trongbon's core race. Moreover, they never imagined they could be so powerful. With this kind of ability, Han Vu could easily make it into the top 10. In the end, the outcome was clear. Han Vu had achieved victory. He completely annihilated 10,000 red goblins. Director Hua and Tan Sang were overjoyed with Han Vu's win. The old saying goes, "Don't count your chickens before they hatch." Lu Nyok was furious, but could do nothing about it. After the test ended, teachers from other classes were all clamoring to recruit the 3 of them, just as Tan Sang turned to look at Han Vu. Just then, Trong Huolong also turned to look at Tan Sang, ready to follow her to whichever class she chose. This love triangle is truly complicated. Han Vu faced Director Hua and asked seriously, "Why was my assessment so difficult?" Hua Mai calmly replied, "The difficulty of the assessment was decided by all the department heads together." Han Vu said he wanted to see their votes. Director Hua handed it to him. The teachers who had previously supported Lu Nyok looked absolutely grim. They regretted helping him. After reviewing the voting list, Han Vu saw that only 2 teachers had voted against the difficulty increase. Han Vu then asked what kind of support those 2 teachers could offer him if he joined their classes. After hearing the benefits they could provide, Han Vu decided he wanted to join teacher Dien Van's class. Seeing this, Tan Sang and Trong Huolong quickly asked teacher Dien to let them into his class as well. Department head Dien's face lit up with joy upon learning that all 3 top students had chosen his class. Teacher Dien presented the gift he had prepared for the 3 of them. The gift was a level 2 architecture card, the insect nest. It covered an area of 1 square kilometer and would hatch tens of millions of insects each year. Han Vu considered building the insect nest behind his god's domain. He could use his 2 level 1 holy relics, the Triburst and the Molten Lava, for additional support. This way, the insect nest could leverage the effects of those 2 items during the insect's incubation period. That meant he would get 10 million molten locusts every year. Han Vu immediately bowed his head to thank Teacher Dian. Director Hua stood seriously before all the teachers and announced, "Today's test was just a small practice exercise. No need to take it so seriously. But in 7 days, the joint school-wide exam is an extremely important event as it relates to the future resource allocation for each class in the God's domain." Han Vu checked the number of his followers after the battle and saw that the situation was disastrous. If he participated in the exam in 7 days with his current strength, his performance would likely rank dead last in the entire department. Han Vu had to quickly create more soldiers, but first, he needed to train the locusts he already had. Han Vu's eyes widened in surprise when he saw that after just 1 battle, their name had changed to Crimson Flame Dwarves. Curious, Han Vu decided he had to verify this with his own eyes. He was stunned to find that the dwarves could evolve into innate elites. He felt a pang of regret. If only they were his core race. With further nurturing, their growth rate would absolutely skyrocket. 4 days later, Han Vu had restored his race to its previous scale. The population had reached 7.3 billion locusts. Han Vu waved his hand and performed a life sacrifice. 3 exchange options appeared before him. Option 1 was a level 2 holy relic, the Ruin of the Gluttony Law. After being absorbed into the God's domain core, his divine race would gain the gluttony ability. Their total food intake capacity would increase 1,000-fold, allowing them to complete their evolution. The Ruin Holy Relic only worked on normal life forms. Option 2 was a hero template. Giving it to a transcendent life form could help them upgrade into a heroic life form. The final choice was 1 point of divinity. Han Vu was ecstatic. He never expected such great options this time. He thought the gluttony law could turn normal locusts into elite life forms, but he was sure he wouldn't be able to feed them all. As for the hero template, it could evolve a transcendent life form into a heroic one, or 1 point of divinity, which was equivalent to 10 trillion faith power and also equivalent to 100. 1 million divine power is basically like hitting the lottery. After agonizing over his choice, Han Vu decided to go with the first option. It could only be used on the insect nest for now, so he started by raising 1 million of them a year. 3 days later, the final product was ready. Han Vu was stunned, unsure if he was looking at a giant insect or a giant lizard. He officially named it the Violent Lava Locust Plus. On the day the exam began, Qin Shuang approached Han Vu in the classroom to offer some well-meaning advice. She asked if he had reconsidered becoming her vassal. After all, if Han Vu had no backing and no resources, he'd never be able to stand out from the other demigods. Han Vu thanked her for her kindness, but he still refused. Whether he could win or not would have to wait until the exam. Qin Shuang frowned and angrily snapped, "You're insane." Sitting behind them, Zhang Xiaolong watched the entire exchange, filled with jealousy. Seeing the girl he secretly admired showing so much concern for that brat Han Vu, he seethed with resentment, vowing that one day he would make Han Vu disappear from Qin Shuang's sight for good. Teacher Tian stood at the front of the class, announcing the rules for this examination. The student with the best performance would receive incredible rewards like holy artifacts and land in the divine domain, core fragments, and even a legion of familiars. However, anyone who failed would be expelled. Han Vu's eyes lit up at the sight of the prizes. He was determined to go all out for those rewards. The competition officially kicked off with the first round of the general exam. All contestants, get ready. The countdown begins. 3, 2, 1, 0. Let's go. Han Vu stepped into the divine domain along with his familiars. Ready for battle. A massive legion of flesh golems emerged from a thick, swirling mist. Han Vu couldn't believe the school would go this hard. Although the golems were just common tier life forms, they had the fighting power of an elite tier. What's more, their flesh was thick and tough to cut, making them incredibly difficult to fight. The only saving grace was their slow and sluggish movements. Otherwise, this battle would be almost impossible to win. Han Vu commanded 50,000 of his violent lava locusts to attack, initiating their magma self-destruction. A swarm flew towards the flesh golems and began to detonate, inflicting significant damage and filling the air with the smell of burnt meat. Next, Han Vu sent a squad of dwarf haulers forward to drag all the corpses back to feed his locusts. 15 minutes later, the swarm of locusts had devoured every last scrap of the flesh golems. Outside, the teachers were monitoring the battle closely. As they discussed the match, Tianwen was thrilled to see that Han Vu had defeated the horde of flesh golems. A foe considered a nightmare by other students had, in Han Vu's hands, become nothing more than feed for his familiars. Moreover, Han Vu's familiars were even able to resist the toxins in the flesh golems' corpses. Everyone was deeply impressed. But one teacher, Liu Yuetian, was scornful of Han Vu's abilities, saying, that was just a lucky fluke. In terms of real power, his locusts are just trash. Seeing this, Tianwen immediately shot back. Those are transcendent life forms, you know. Even if they're just considered cannon fodder, many of them are transcendent life forms. They've already crossed the transcendent threshold, after all. The two continued to argue back and forth. Liu Yuetian and Tianwen each wagered 5 points of divine power. They bet on whose student would achieve the better result, Liu Mo or Han Vu. Of the two, who would emerge victorious? Who would get the last laugh? Liu Yuetian sneered inwardly. Tianwen, aren't you ready to admit defeat this time? Liu Mo is my own nephew. I've personally given him resources. Are you willing to do the same for Han Vu? By then, the qualifying round had ended. 430 contestants had passed, and 300 of them chose to participate in the ranking assessment. The ranking round began. Emerging from a portal, a horde of skeleton soldiers marched into the divine domain. Han Vu sighed wearily. It was time to feed his 1 billion plus locusts again. 2 hours later, the skeleton soldiers had been eaten clean, without a single bone remaining. Shortly after, a second wave of skeleton soldiers appeared. Han Vu unleashed his self-detonating locusts, with the violent lava locusts providing support. His plan was that if the magma kept rising, the skeleton soldiers wouldn't be able to wade through it to reach him. Han Vu continued to have his dwarf haulers pour molten lava from large furnaces onto the ground, raising the temperature even higher. Han Vu had laid out an inescapable trap, just waiting for the skeleton soldiers to walk into it so he could send them to their graves. The other watching teachers were astonished. Han Vu's strategy was incredibly bold and innovative, but Liu Yuetian remained dismissive, saying, "What's the big deal? He's only reached the 7th wave, right? My Liu Mo has also reached the 7th wave. Right now, Liu Mo's divine domain has a total of 13 level 1 arrow towers, 9 level 1 lightning towers, and 12 level 1 fireball towers." But just as Liu Yuetian was gloating, certain that first place was his, he was shocked when he glanced at Qin Shuang's divine domain. He couldn't believe his eyes. She had a whopping 100 lightning towers, 300,000 innate elite life forms, the thunder sparrows, and 100 common tier life forms, the ancient treants. She was a true heiress, unbelievably wealthy beyond compare. That's the power of being from a rich family for you, even among demigods. No longer having as many trump cards as before, a bitter Liu Yuetian blamed it all on Han Yu and vowed to make him pay. The 10th wave ended, leaving only 18 contestants to advance, preparing for the 11th invasion, where the difficulty would increase significantly. At this moment, a dark figure slowly emerged, approaching the god's domain. It was none other than the hero of life, the Bone Controller. A skeleton race being of hero rank, it possessed the talents of bone gathering and bone manipulation. Wherever it stepped, it would gather and bind together scattered bone fragments, turning them into a giant. The Bone Controller assembled the bone fragments into a colossal skeleton. It stomped and destroyed everything in its path. In less than 3 minutes, 8 students had already requested to withdraw. It was truly a daunting challenge. Liu Yuetian still couldn't understand why the skeleton giants in Han Yu's god's domain looked so weak and small. He suspected Han Yu might have used some dirty tricks. Head teacher Tian explained that it was because in Han Yu's god's domain, many of the bones had already been melted down, so the Bone Controller didn't have enough materials to unleash its full power. The iron-slicing sword edge quickly eliminated the enemy. Han Yu passed the 11th round in succession. Liu Yuetian, still stubborn as a mule, argued vehemently, "This is cheating. It's definitely cheating. Han Yu must have stolen the test questions." He refused to believe it was true. Teacher Tian retorted, "Do you have any proof?" Liu Yuetian insisted that Han Yu must have known the test content in advance. Just think, who would bother to clean up after defeating a horde of bone soldiers? Before Han Yu, what Bone Controller could ever do that? Cleaning up the broken bones on the battlefield is enough to enhance the Bone Controller's power. As Liu Yuetian and Tianwen were arguing back and forth, head teacher Xu finally spoke up. "The content of this test was arranged by the principal right before we departed. Even I didn't know the specific details before it began. If student Han Yu knew the content in advance, it could only be because the principal told him." Xu Mei then turned the question back on Liu Yuetian. "Teacher Liu, Do you think the principal would do such a thing? Liu Yuetian cowered like a dog with its tail between its legs, scratching his head and apologizing. But he still insisted, even if Han Yu didn't cheat, this result is just too insane. Compared to the other students, it's extremely unfair. Head teacher Xu gave a faint smile at the fairness Liu Yuetian was talking about. Is fairness, perhaps, the way you used your authority to help Liu Mo obtain numerous resources? Or how Qin Shuang received millions of divine power units from her family to support her god's domain. Facing the Bone Controller's terrifying destruction, Liu Mo couldn't fight any longer and had to request withdrawal from the match. It seemed the bet between Liu Yuetian and Tian Wen was now settled. Han Yu had successfully passed 11 rounds, while Liu Mo had not. His heart aching as if it were being cut, Liu Yuetian grit his teeth and handed his 5 divinity points over to Tian Wen. After an hour, the 13 rounds of the match concluded, leaving only 3 people, Han Yu, Qin Shuang, and Huang Fei. The 14th round began. In Huang Fei's god's domain, he raised his hands in surrender, requesting to withdraw before the bloodthirsty skeleton army. By the 16th round, Qin Shuang also withdrew. In the end, only Han Yu was left, still fighting. In the 20th round, inside Han Yu's god's domain, he unleashed a swarm of exploding elephant locusts. They made the skeletons cry out in misery and beg for mercy. After 50 minutes of battle, peace was restored to the god's domain. The 20th round ended, and the 21st was about to begin. The challenge's difficulty continued to rise as the gate of the god's domain opened. No one knew what it was, but it made him exclaim, "It's huge. It's way too big." Outside, everyone's jaws nearly hit the floor. Unexpectedly, it was the ancient scale spirit lord. Everyone assumed Han Yu would continue to fight to the very end, even against a powerful spirit lord level foe. But to everyone's surprise, Han Yu suddenly reported his withdrawal. This left everyone, including the ancient scale spirit lord, completely astonished. Han Yu stepped out of his god's domain, and the test concluded. In the end, Han Yu had secured the first place position. Liu Yuetian was furious, but could do nothing. An hour later, the generous rewards reserved for the winner appeared one by one. There was a unique mineral stone, a god's domain territory increase of 100, a divine power card, and a card that could be exchanged for a grade 1 holy item. There was also entry into a grade 1 divine temple, a card to exchange 100,000 divine power for a divine weapon, and a card to redeem a transcendent seed, and a card to upgrade the god's domain core, a card to increase divinity by 1 point, and a god's domain core level +1. While Han Yu was pondering which reward to choose, Teacher Tian appeared at just the right moment. He offered to help him select the most suitable rewards. In Han Yu's god's domain, the territory card was successfully exchanged for the dense forest land. An additional 20 square kilometers. The grade 1 holy item card was exchanged for the poison mist pearl. The holy domain core was upgraded by 1 level, and the construction of the grade 1 divine temple was completed. An hour later at the school, Tian Wen stood before the class and invited the 3 students with outstanding performance in the recent exam, Han Yu, Qin Shuang, and Huang Fei, who were sitting below, to come up and receive the class awards. For Han Yu, who brilliantly won first place in the competition, he would be rewarded with 100 points to spend in the resource treasury, where he could choose any single item. Han Yu looked through the items in the treasury. He decided to choose the Fountain of Life, because it could transform powerful life force into a flowing stream. It could nurture life with its own vitality and change the surrounding environment. Tian Wen believed that Han Yu would surely achieve great things in the future. You have a boundless future. Not only are you ambitious in your pursuit of power, but you're also self-aware of your own standing. A moment later, a classmate approached Han Yu. "Congratulations," he said, before revealing his reason for seeking out Han Yu today. He wanted to trade 105 million divine power for the godhood point. Han Yu asked him why. The classmate clasped his hands and pleaded earnestly, "Please, trade it to me. My grandfather is about to ascend to true godhood, so we desperately need it." Han Yu hesitated. Just as he was considering the trade, his phone suddenly buzzed. He checked it and saw a message from Qin Shuang, saying she wanted to make a trade as well. She offered 150 million divine power to buy Han Yu's godhood point. Han Yu was ecstatic. He never expected Qin Shuang to be so wealthy and generous. She also explained that a godhood point can be condensed using 100 million divine power, but only on the condition that the deity produces and consumes it themselves. This means condensing divine power through the faith generated by the deity's own believers, then using it to form their own godhood point. If it's mixed with the faith power from other deities, the success rate of creating a godhood point drops significantly. The current market price for a godhood point is 145 million divine power, and even at such a high price, no one is willing to sell. Han Yu then realized that he'd almost been scammed by that guy. Back at home, he entered his god's domain. He planned to build a level 1 divine temple near the Red Dwarf's forge and place the Fountain of Life near the desert. In just a short time, the land there would become much more fertile. Seeing this, the Red Dwarves were incredibly grateful. They fell to their knees in gratitude as Han Yu gifted them a new divine weapon, the Purgatory Warhammer. Not only that, but Han Yu also gave an extraordinary seed to the one named Divine Hammer, hoping that he would soon become a hero. Divine Hammer was moved to tears. Meanwhile, Han Yu wondered about the effects of the poison pearl he had. His teacher, Tianwen, called him. He gave Han Yu 2 choices. The first was a godhood card, along with 150 million divine power. This was part of the winnings from a bet he had won against Liu Yuetian. The other choice was a demon egg. It was an egg laid by a heavenly demon bug king, which had been refined into a stillborn embryo using a secret poison pearl technique. Although it was dead, it still produced 10 liters of demonic embryo essence every day. By consuming this essence, even the lowest level bug races could evolve into low-level heavenly demon bugs. Everyone looked down on Han Yu's Imperial Locust race as trash, but with this demon egg, he could forge a new destiny for them. The Imperial Locusts would transform into heavenly demon bugs, and although they couldn't compare to naturally elite beings like Qin Shuang's Thunder Sparrows, they could at least reach the level of normal life forms, like elves and dwarves. After careful consideration, Han Yu decided to choose the demon embryo egg. Tianwen added that if he combined a level 1 poison mist pearl with the heavenly demon bugs, the results would be exceptionally good. Han Yu thanked Tianwen, promising not to let his teacher's kindness go to waste. He then asked if teacher Tian could supply a large amount of meat. The meat from the market was very expensive and not very potent, and he needed it to feed his imperial locusts. Tianwen immediately referred him to the principal. He explained that the principal had recently conquered a demonic abyss, so he would surely have a large number of monster corpses. Han Yu sighed. The appetite of his level 2 sacred creatures was too immense. The production within his god's domain alone couldn't satisfy their hunger. He needed to find a stable food supply, and fast. Han Yu walked over to the base of an ancient tree. He placed the demon embryo egg down. It would soon start producing the demonic embryo essence, and once the imperial locusts consumed it, they would quickly evolve. 2 days later, Han Yu returned to check on its progress. His efforts had paid off better than he'd expected. It seemed there was now plenty of demonic embryo essence for his imperial locusts. Suddenly, the demon embryo egg cracked open, and a heavenly demon bug emerged. Although it was a common species, it was over 100 times stronger than an imperial locust. Since there was no information on how to rear them, each heavenly demon bug had to rely on the demonic embryo essence to evolve. A single drop of the essence could transform 1 locust. There were 20 drops in a milliliter, meaning 10 liters contained 200,000 drops. If everything went smoothly, he could raise 200,000 demonic insects every day. Han Yu then began to integrate the level 1 sacred item, the poison mist pearl, into the core of his god's domain. The heavenly demon bugs evolved into an elite life form, the poison mist heavenly demon bug. The result was surprisingly good. Elsewhere, the principal had a massive headache, wondering how to dispose of the mountain of bones that had piled up. The principal wondered what to do with all the broken bones and the massive pile of flesh and blood demon corpses. Even if they sealed the corpses in cards, the mental strain would eventually cause the cards to break, releasing the bodies to contaminate the area again. Just then, Tianwen called the principal. Teacher Tian scratched his head, a bit embarrassed, and explained why he was calling. He asked if the principal could supply some flesh and blood demon corpses for a student who wanted to purchase them. The principal asked why on earth a student would want to buy them, so Tianwen began to explain. He said that the student used them to feed his core race, the Imperial Locusts, which had already eaten flesh and blood demon corpses during the competition, and had shown no adverse reactions. The principal was shocked. He hadn't expected it to be the same little genius who had fought a demigod just a few days ago. To think that those tiny imperial locusts were so capable, what a shame about their weak lineage. The survival conditions of the demon abyss are unsuitable for the locusts. Otherwise, he could have led a large swarm of them to feed on the flesh and blood of the flesh demons, which would have saved him a lot of divine power. The principal handed over a card containing 1 million flesh demon corpses to teacher Tian to give to Han Yu first. A day later, an embarrassed teacher Tian went to ask the principal again. The The principal was completely shocked to learn that in just one day, Han Yu's familiars had devoured all the flesh demons he had just been given. For a long-term supply, he couldn't just give them away for free. A fee would be required. 1 point of divine power could buy 100 flesh demon corpses, with a minimum purchase of 10,000 divine power. 5 minutes later, Teacher Tian called back and said Han Yu agreed and wanted to buy 1 million divine powers worth up front. A few days later, after fattening up the locust swarm, the time was finally ripe. He began the life sacrifice. A selection panel appeared before Han Yu. The first option was 5 giant warriors, transcendent life forms from the giant race, renowned for their terrifying destructive power. Selling just one of these warriors could fetch a high price of 10 million divine power. The next option was the level 3 elite skill, Poison Burst Technique. After downloading it to the God's Domain core, his familiars could master the basic Poison Burst technique, and it could even be taught to hero-level life forms, who could potentially comprehend it to its highest level. And the final option was a decomposer, which breaks down matter to produce pure energy. It was well worth sacrificing 12 billion elite locust life forms for this. Han Yu calmly weighed his options. In the end, he chose the decomposer, which could break down matter to create energy crystals. Moreover, energy crystals were food for magical familiars, making them extremely valuable. It was an effortless way to get rich, a true money-making machine. Han Yu decided to test the machine with a few pieces of iron ore. After 5 hours, it finally produced 3 iron crystals. Han Yu was ecstatic. They had many uses, such as being food for special races or serving as forging materials. Each crystal could be sold for 5 points of divine power. Suddenly, Han Yu heard a prayer from a believer in his temple. They reported being attacked by an undead creature while mining, which had injured 3 of their comrades. The Divine Hammer clan chief was currently fighting the... Using his vision, Han Yu saw that the undead creature looked a lot like a skeleton lord. He tried to investigate it, but the investigation failed completely because the little skeleton wasn't one of his believers. Furthermore, Han Yu didn't possess this kind of investigation ability, so he couldn't retrieve any of its information. Han Yu was speechless, completely at a loss for words. He ordered the iron-slicing swordwind to join the battle, and it sliced them to pieces. Han Yu then made an offer. If they submitted to him, they would be granted a new life. But this bunch was as stubborn as a mule and flat-out refused. They immediately attacked Han Yu. So he had his 2 champions, the iron-slicing swordwind and the divine hammer, teach it a lesson until it finally submitted. 3 days later, it finally surrendered, willingly submitting to the god. Han Yu was satisfied. At last, he could now check the information on these skeleton demons. Tianwen entered the classroom to announce a new challenge, one that would truly create a gap between the students, separating the elite from the less capable. It would even have a major impact on which university they'd get into in the future. Han Yu suddenly remembered his grandfather's dying wish, for him to get into the Imperial Capital Academy in the Chaotic Star Sea to search for his parents, who had been missing for years. You have to understand, the Imperial Capital Academy is one of the top universities in the God's Domain civilization. To get in, he would have to surpass thousands of other outstanding individuals. The specific details of the exam would be sent via email after the students were teleported to Demon Realm C793826. The candidates would have 1 hour to prepare for the match. The classroom was buzzing with excitement as everyone discussed the match. To their surprise, it was taking place in the Demon Realm, a land constantly shrouded in dense demonic energy. When other creatures enter, there's a high chance they get corrupted by the demonic energy and turn into mindless, demonized beings. Only demonic creatures and the undead can exist there normally. Furthermore, the place is prone to undead outbreaks, and these undead will frantically attack any living creature they find. Zhang Xiaolong laughed to himself, smugly thinking he would finally defeat Han Yu and crush him completely. Zhang Xiaolong received a call from an unknown number, but the voice was unexpectedly familiar. It was Liu Haotian, proposing they team up to deal with Han Yu. Needless to say, Han Yu was already a thorn in his side because of all the attention he got from Qin Shuang. Liu Haotian offered him a Drake Demon card, a transcendent life form from a powerful race on par with hero-level beings. This was Liu Haotian's sponsorship gift for Zhang Xiaolong to use in the upcoming exam. The competition began on the Demon Abyss Plane C793826. The exam requirements appeared before each candidate. Participating students would have 1 opportunity to transform into one of their familiars. If an incarnated kin dies, the student simply reverts to their original form. But if your real body dies, you die for good. Each contestant gets only 1 chance to summon their kin per day. with a limit of 100 creatures per summon. The ranking system is based on points accumulated from missions. Completing missions earns you points and corresponding rewards. Faced with choices like the Imperial Swarm, dwarves, stone lizards, the Swordwind tribe, or a skeleton lord that was weakened, crippled, and sealed, Han Yu chose the skeleton lord, an undead type, hoping to avoid the corrupting demonic energy of the abyssal demesne. Time to gamble. Black smoke swirled around him before vanishing. Han Yu appeared with an unexpectedly handsome look for a walking skeleton. He ordered 100 gluttonous imperial grubs into battle, but before they could even fight, they started dying off, unable to adapt to the demonic energy in the abyss. Aside from 3 celestial demon bugs, Han Yu had to rely entirely on Little 1, Little 2, and Little 3. He found a bone demon fruit and had them fly up to pick it. Suddenly, a group of ugly, animated skeleton soldiers closed in on him. Han Yu was delighted. This was a perfect chance to test the power, attack, and defense of his new little skeleton form. In the blink of an eye, the army of corpses couldn't withstand even a flick of his finger and were wiped out, piling up into a mountain. Han Yu stood proudly before his masterpiece. And yet, after all that effort, the mission to collect bone demon fruits was only enough for 20 points on the exam. And the 100-point mission required defeating a demigod boss, which Han Yu definitely couldn't do. So, he ordered his 3 celestial demon bugs to immediately harvest a large quantity of bone demon fruits to give him a fighting chance. After a day had passed, Han Yu held the cards that had collected all the bone demon fruits within them, but exam points could only be redeemed once. Han Yu opened his class's group chat and sent a message asking if anyone wanted to buy 100 bone demon fruits. They were necessary for Mission 49. And he wouldn't accept any form of trade. Han Yu had no idea that the moment he put them up for sale, they would be met with such enthusiastic support. He patted himself on the back, calling himself a business genius. Elsewhere, a certain someone with his wolf-type kin was delighted to learn Han Yu's location. What dirty trick was he plotting to harm our hero? And would that plan succeed or fail? A few hours later, Han Yu was ranked only in 18th place, just as he'd expected. He knew that because his kin were too weak to fight in the abyssal demesne, he couldn't accumulate many points. If he only did the bone demon fruit collection mission without taking on higher level ones, he would definitely be overtaken, and his rank would plummet. Just then, Han Yu unexpectedly ran into a group of withered bone soldiers. He strode towards them with the regal air of an emperor and gave an order from behind: surrender. To his surprise, they immediately knelt in submission. It was a completely unexpected result. Without doing anything, he already had over a dozen followers. Han Yu told them to rise and lead him to their camp for a look. An hour later, Han Yu finally arrived at the withered bone soldier's stronghold. He was overjoyed. This was a huge score. The withered bone knight, sitting atop the pack's alpha wolf, stepped forward as the leader of the withered bone soldiers and spoke. I was once a member of the 1st Legion. During a confrontation with the flesh fiends, the squad I led was separated from the main army. Therefore, I had no choice but to make camp here, because we have to deal with invasions from rotten zombies and flesh fiends every day. The number of soldiers under my command has been dwindling. That's why soldiers were sent out to find bone demon fruits to enhance our strength. If they had already submitted to be his soldiers, Han Yu would make them even stronger. The next day, Han Yu's rank dropped to 178th place. He realized the time was ripe for him to make a move and turn the tables. Han Yu bestowed upon the withered bone knight a marrow soulstone along with other equipment. After 10 minutes, the withered bone soldiers looked completely transformed. They looked fiercer, stronger, and more imposing than before. Han Yu and his withered bone soldiers advanced on the flesh fiend's lair. Standing before the entrance to the flesh fiend's cave, Han Yu saw they had anywhere from 8,000 to 10,000 troops, and he only had 1,000. A head-on fight would be extremely difficult to win, so he thought of a fun little game. Han Yu sent a single bone soldier to the cave entrance to lure a few flesh fiends out. Then, he and the other bone soldiers would advance to cut them down. An hour later, the slain flesh fiends were reanimated to join his own army. The number of withered bone soldiers increased to over 7,000. Only 3,000 enemies were left in the lair. After just 3 hours, Han Yu had collected the points, plus 60. His rank had jumped up by 70 spots. Meanwhile, Zhang Xiaolong was frantically searching for Han Yu, wanting to cause trouble for him. He never expected Han Yu to have gained another 60 points. It seemed he had taken down the flesh fiend's lair. Still, he refused to believe it was due to Han Yu's actual strength, chalking it up to pure luck. Zhang Xiaolong stood behind Han Yu's group, slightly surprised. He never thought Han Yu would be raising a legion of withered bones in the Darklands. He must be trying to use them to boost his score. Not wanting to let him get his way, he decided to play spoiler. He commanded his pack of hellhounds to attack. They let out a deafening howl and charged straight for Han Yu. Seeing the approaching danger, the withered bone soldiers fearlessly charged forward to protect their master. The battle was incredibly fierce. They were evenly matched, neither side willing to back down. Zhang Xiaolong thought that in just 2 days since arriving in the Demon Abyss Plain, Han Yu had already gathered such a large force. If he waited until the end of the match, who would be able to stop him then? Today would definitely be the day Han Yu dies. He immediately transformed into a demonic half-dragon and charged forward, tearing into the skeleton soldiers. Han Yu was surprised. He didn't know when he had made an enemy of Zhang Xiaolong, to the point that he would decide to attack his clan today. With a furious expression, Zhang Xiaolong sneered, "I just don't like the look of you. Now die." With that, he launched a fatal attack on the boy. The skeleton soldiers could only watch helplessly, worried sick. Thinking he had finished off Han Yu, Zhang Xiaolong turned to leave. Han Yu, who was thought to be dead, was clutching his chest and breathing a sigh of relief. It was a good thing the skeleton lord could be revived. Otherwise, he would have been a goner. This time, Zhang Xiaolong had the next time they met, he would make sure it was the day Zhang Xiaolong died. Meanwhile, Zhang Xiaolong was checking the rankings again. He searched and searched, but couldn't find Han Yu's name on the list of those who had withdrawn from the competition. His eyes widened when he saw Han Yu at rank 168. He couldn't believe the kid had faked his death. He was absolutely furious, vowing to hunt him to the ends of the earth. When Zhang Xiaolong returned to the entrance of the Flesh and Blood Demon Cave, there was no one left in sight. He flew into a rage, ordering his hellhounds to search a 100-mile radius and not to miss a single skeleton. Because of Zhang Xiaolong's sneak attack, the skeleton soldiers were reduced to just over 5,000. Han Yu gave them bone essence stones after helping them recover, but their strength was still insufficient. To get noticed by the Imperial Capital Academy, he needed a more groundbreaking achievement. He received mission number 64, eliminate the fallen demon tribe with a reward of 80 exam points, essence stones, and the level 2 skill, chain fireball. The fallen demons were known to be vicious and sinister native creatures, but their actual strength was quite ordinary. Han Yu could use the fallen demons to create a massive army of skeleton soldiers. He eagerly set out with his skeleton soldiers, heading towards the fallen demon tribe. 2 months later, in a meeting room, the teachers were discussing the competition's progress. Everyone was actively boasting about their own outstanding students. For instance, Huang Fei had built a great army of demonized goblins numbering over 100,000, with a score that had reached 3,200 points, securing his top position. Lu Mo had also earned 310 exam points, currently ranking second in the competition, and had even found an evolutionary path for demonized goblins. Another teacher, seeing Tianwen's silence, couldn't resist taking a jab. "Teacher Tianwen, wasn't your class's Han Yu the top student in the joint exam? How come he's lost his magic this time around?" Liu Yuetian chimed in, adding fuel to the fire. "He only won by being a little clever. After all, he was always the weakest in the class." Tianwen ignored their provocations. Liu Yuetian was bitter, seeing Tianwen still stubbornly defending that brat, Han Yu. Teacher Liu believed that no matter how many resources he had, Han Yu was a lost cause, and it remained to be seen if he could even survive and leave this competition alive. Tianwen continued to bet with Liu Yuetian, stating that the winnings would be 10 divinity points if his student Han Yu won first place this time. Liu Yuetian was determined to take the bet. Although he didn't even have 10 divinity points, he recklessly wagered a level 3 god-class relic. Tianwen accepted, and the bet was on. Teacher Tian said that if Han Yu managed to get more than 80 points from the mission right from the start, it would still count as a success. 80 points was indeed very difficult, and even more so for a high school student. But if he succeeded, he would attract the attention of the top-tier schools. Even if he didn't achieve the best results, he would still secure a spot in a first-rate school later on. At location C793826, the Fallen Demon Camp, which originally had millions of fallen demons, now had less than 100,000. Han Yu's strategy was brilliant. Now that he had over 900,000 skeleton soldiers, the time was ripe. He ordered his skeleton army to charge down and fight the flesh and blood demons. After getting beaten to a pulp, with every last one of them bruised and battered, the skeleton soldiers finally claimed victory. The skull banner fluttered in the wind amidst their joyous celebration. Han Yu's jaw dropped, stunned to see the birth of a revived skeleton. They were even more powerful than the skeleton knights. A skeleton knight knelt and presented him with the spoils of war, the abyssal source. It could stimulate a boost in life force. Han Yu could try this on his locusts. If he could get a 1,000,000-strong army, who would he have to fear? He went to turn in the mission. His score increased by 80 points, putting him at rank 401, and he received the level 2 skill stone, Chain Fireball. Han Yu and his great army set out for the next mission, worth 70 points, involving a native race of the Demon Abyss. 3 days later, based on his score, Han Yu had successively completed 2 missions worth 70 and 80 points. From being at the bottom, he had made a spectacular climb to the 4th position. Liu Yuetian said contemptuously, "So what if he's 4th? It's not like he's number 1. Xu Mei announced that the Berserker Academy and the Potential Academy. Thonsun Academy has sent an invitation. They want to interview Han Vu after the assessment is over. Lu Nyakthin objects, demanding to know why Director Xu is only announcing the invitation for Han Vu and not for the other students. Xu Mai explains that according to the rules, a student must have over 3,000 assessment points and also complete a mission worth at least 80 points. Currently, Han Vu is the first and only person to have achieved this. Shortly after, Tan Sang completes an 80-point mission, pushing her total over 3,000, and also receiving an invitation from a top-tier university, the Mad Battle Academy. Lu Nyakthin sends a telepathic message, urging Trong Hyo-long to quickly complete the 90-point mission to prevent that brat Han Vu from stealing the glory. A notification appears before Han Vu, showing 3 remaining missions he must complete: the 80-point mission to cleanse the evil spirits of the Man-Tree Forest, the 90-point mission to annihilate the Bull Demon tribe, and the 100-point mission to slay the demigod Dark Dwarf. With his current total of 3,480 points, he's in 3rd place, only 130 points behind the leader. If he can complete 2 more missions, he'll be at the top of the leaderboard, but he only has 20,000 skeleton soldiers, 2 hero units, and 190 transcendent beings left. Therefore, he decides to eliminate the Bull Demon tribe first. At that moment, in the Bull Demon tribe's territory, Trong Hyo-long and the Lion Shifter are teaming up to defeat the Bull Demon King. After an hour, things aren't looking very good. They realize they can't win and decide to retreat. If they stubbornly continue, their entire clans will be wiped out. The lion-headed guy is completely floored when he sees Han Vu's massive skeleton army. They must have woken up on the wrong side of the bed today. What rotten luck to run into Han Vu's undead calamity. The two of them scoff at the army, thinking that while the skeletons are numerous, their combat power is weak. They plan to wait for the skeleton soldiers to be locked in a fierce battle with the Bull Demon King, then charge in together to steal the kill. But there's no way they could fool Han Vu that easily. From his high vantage point, he gives the order, Bone Controller, attack. They never expected Han Vu's summons to be so powerful. The Bone Controller revives the lizards that were just killed, turning them into more skeleton soldiers. Faced with such a terrifying force, how could they possibly fight back? They figure that of the 36 stratagems, fleeing is the best option. Not a chance. Han Vu would never let them get away that easily. He approaches to check on the health of his 2 beloved classmates, Trong Hyo-long and Tu Duan. Han Vu looks at Trong Hyo-long, remembering an old score he needs to settle. He quickly orders the Bone Controller to crush him and send him to the afterlife. The man is in utter disbelief. Weren't Han Vu's summons supposed to be locusts? It's too late. There's no time for questions. The Bone Controller is already raising its foot to stomp him flat. He screams in despair, "No, don't." Seeing Trong Hyo-long's gruesome fate, Tu Duan next to him pisses his pants in fear, desperately begging Han Vu to spare him. He agrees to any condition Han Vu sets and offers to hand over half of all the treasures he possesses. With such a sweet deal served up on a platter, Han Vu would be a fool not to take it. He accepts the deal and agrees to spare his life. Overjoyed as if he'd struck gold, Tu Duan scrambles away as fast as he can, not daring to linger for a second. After 5 hours of being brutally beaten down, the Bull Demon tribe finally surrenders, willingly pledging their allegiance to Han Vu. After completing the mission to eliminate the Bull Demon tribe, Han Vu collects another 90 points, bringing his total to 3,570, just 40 points away from first place. But there are still 2 missions ahead, and he's hesitating on which one to tackle first. He's surprised to see that only 1 mission is left. It turns out the other one was already completed by Tan Sang, raising her score to 3,580 points and putting her in 2nd place on the leaderboard. If he wants to take first place, his only option left is to eliminate the demigod Dark Dwarf. This is going to be incredibly difficult, but if he wants to get into the capital academy, he absolutely must finish in the top spot. Han Vu's resolve is firm. He orders his entire army to move out, heading straight for the Dark Dwarf's lair. By now, 11 classes have completed the assessment. Only 3 students from teacher Dian Van's class are still in the trial. The student in second is Tan Sang with 3,580 points. Third is Han Vu with 3,570. And Tu Duan is in 7th with 3,320 points. Everyone in the viewing room is wondering what these 3 will do next. Lu Nyakthien scoffs with a sour expression. What's there to wonder about? All that's left is the demigod mission. Do they actually dare to challenge it? If they fail, they'll lose everything. No one from Class 11 has ever attempted this mission before, and in the school's entire history, no one has ever succeeded. Teacher Dian agrees with Lu Nyakhthien's point, but adds that they'll have to wait for the final result to know for sure. Even so, Dian Van still has high hopes for Tan Sang and Han Vu, believing that they will definitely complete the mission to eliminate the Dark Dwarf. Over on Tan Sang's side, she has dispatched her Thunder Sparrows. Dazzling bolts of lightning rain down upon the Dark Tribe, wiping out a considerable number of them. Their agonizing screams are ear-splitting. The demigod Dark Dwarf flies into a rage. How dare someone brazenly attack its tribe and even slaughter its people? They truly have a death wish, looking down on it like this, or something, as it activated a protective shield around its tribe and cursed the invaders to die a horrible death. This protective shield retaliated, deflecting the lightning bolts back at the Thunder Sparrows, injuring them badly and causing them to fall from the sky. Qin Shuang quickly used her purification divine art to gather all the Thunder Sparrows and have them launch a simultaneous lightning attack on the Dark Toadman's protective barrier. Just when the Thunder Sparrows thought they had succeeded by breaking its shell, they realized the Dark Toadman was no simple foe, especially since it was a demigod. It summoned the mountain-devouring demon toad, which, upon entering the battlefield, immediately shot out a 1,000-meter-long tongue, wrapping around and swallowing Qin Shuang's Thunder Sparrow form whole. Inside the stomach of this mountain demon frog, Qin Shuang desperately unleashed her lightning attacks with all her might. But the situation still didn't look good. The mountain-devouring demon was so massive that her tiny lightning bolts couldn't really hurt it. If this dragged on any longer, she'd be a goner. Qin Shuang was annoyed. Of all the times for Han Yu to call, it had to be during a crisis like this. He grinned from ear to ear, praising how unique Qin Shuang's transformation was, and proposed they team up to defeat the Dark Toadman. Besides, he added, if they waited any longer, all of her Thunder Sparrows would be wiped out. Qin Shuang agreed to cooperate on one condition. If they won, she would take the Dark Toadman's divine body, and he could have everything else. Han Yu agreed. Qin Shuang told him to share his location so her Thunder Sparrows could pick up his elite troops, but Han Yu, being terrible with directions, had no idea what corner of the world he was in. He vaguely described his location as being in some sort of crack in the ground. Han Yu lamented, "How are we supposed to fight if we can't even get there?" Qin Shuang ordered her Thunder Sparrow Legion to the swamp described by Han Yu's skeleton army. They flew over in a massive swarm. Han Yu was shocked, not expecting these sparrows to arrive so quickly. He waved his arms frantically to signal them. Han Yu quickly jumped onto the back of a Thunder Sparrow, and his skeletons followed suit. Together, they set off for the Dark Toadman's lair. Han Yu looked down below and saw countless level 5 skeleton soldiers, so fragile they shattered on impact. Now, they were nothing but a pile of broken bones. At Han Yu's command, the bone controller entered the fray. All the scattered bones fused into its body, coalescing into a colossal and powerful skeleton warrior. At that moment, 5 Dark Toadmen joined forces to cast Hell Swamp, trying to immobilize the skeleton. Han Yu tensely ordered the Bone Reviver and the Minotaur Mage to advance. The Minotaur Mage, holding a stone totem pole, charged forward and stomped a Dark Toadman to bits. The Bone Reviver unleashed its power, assembling the white bones from the Dark Toadman's corpse, which crawled out to form new skeleton soldiers that continued the fight against the Dark Toadmen. In the sky, the Thunder Sparrows coordinated with the Skeleton Legion, relentlessly launching lightning strikes. The tide of battle was slowly turning. Seeing its brethren getting torn to shreds, the Dark Toadman furiously unleashed its dark divine art, Nightfall. In that instant, darkness descended, blanketing everything. Han Yu was shocked at how terrifying this spell was. It could completely disintegrate the life force of his skeletons. If he didn't come up with a solution quickly, his entire clan of warriors would perish here. Han Yu's mind raced, but he couldn't think of a plan to break the stalemate. Just then, he heard the voices of Sword Edge and the Red Dwarves. They clamored, begging to join the battle. They were like a lifeline that could help Han Yu overcome this difficult phase. Excited, he opened the gate to his divine domain. Sword Edge, Divine Hammer, the Red Dwarf Legion, and many sky-devouring worms rushed straight into the demon abyss. Once they were ready, they urged Han Yu to quickly begin the life sacrifice. The reward for this sacrifice was exceptionally good. It seemed the heavens were on his side, as he received a special item, the Sacred Flame of Hope. It had the power to dispel darkness, remove negative effects, and boost the energy of his clan members, turning a portion of their faith into a divine offering in the hope of bringing about a miracle. Han Yu brought out the light of the sacred flame to banish the darkness. In an instant, the dark clouds in the sky dissipated. All his clan members, who were languishing moments before, were now brimming with vitality. The Dark Toadman let out a cry of disbelief that echoed throughout the area. The time was ripe for a counterattack. The toad was stunned. How? How is this possible? It couldn't believe a mere divine creature could dispel its dark divine art. It lamented, "My dark divine art. It can't be." Han Yu didn't bother to reply. Riding on the back of a thunder sparrow and holding the light of the sacred flame, he flew back and forth across the sky, dispelling the darkness and leaving the entire Dark Toadman tribe with nowhere to hide. Their horrifying screams sounded like they were being boiled alive. Han Yu paid special attention to the stomach of the mountain-devouring demon. Seeing an occasional flash of lightning, he immediately guessed that Qin Shuang must have been swallowed by that giant toad. Han Yu and his legion charged forward, aiming to slice open the mountain-devouring demon's belly to save Qin Shuang. Divine Hammer and Sword Edge launched a combined attack. One swung a hammer while the other slashed with a sword, and together, they quickly tore a huge hole in the toad's stomach, successfully rescuing her Thunder Sparrow form. After getting out, she furiously turned and summoned a giant ball of lightning, striking down and roasting the beast to a crisp. If it dared to swallow her, then it deserved to face this punishment. The Feathered Kin and the Red Fire Dwarves returned with soaring fighting spirit, ready to attack the Dark Frogmen inside the Hanvu godly domain. After a long search, the heavenly demonic insects finally found their target and flew towards the Dark Frogmen. A series of explosions erupted, blowing all the Dark Frogmen to bits. The withered bone was no longer controlled by the demigod Dark Frogman. It unleashed its power, viciously stomping the frogs into a bloody pulp. The tables had turned, and victory was now leaning towards Han Yu's side. Seeing this, the demigod Dark Frogman tucked its tail and tried to flee, but it never expected Han Yu to be so quick to block its path. He raised the light of the sacred flame, leaving it with nowhere to hide. Qin Shuang transformed into the Thunder Sparrow, spotting its position from above. The Dark Frogman unleashed its fatal skill, but she toyed with it until it was on the brink of death, lying sprawled on the ground. Only then did Qin Shuang stop. She turned to Han Yu. "Now it's your turn. According to our deal, I only need the divine body. Everything else is yours." In her heart, Qin Shuang believed that without Han Yu's help, she would have failed long ago. Han Yu and the Swordwind Iron Slasher slowly approached. Where the demigod Dark Frogman lay, it weakly and desperately begged for its life, willing to offer everything in exchange for survival. Han Yu's heart didn't waver in the slightest, because he knew that after it died, everything it owned would become his anyway. There was no escape. Decisively, Han Yu signaled the Swordwind Iron Slasher to advance, and with a single downward thrust of its sword, it ended the creature's life. Victory belonged to Han Yu and Qin Shuang. Half an hour later, the two proudly gazed upon their collected spoils of war. Wow, a mountain of gold, silver, and jewels. They were truly rich now. Qin Shuang honored the agreement they had made from the start. All these spoils of war would belong to him, except for the divine body, which was what Qin Shuang wanted. Han Yu turned and looked at her for a moment. He felt it was better to give her something as a gift, a thank you for cooperating with him. Han Yu quickly placed a small, sparkling gold crown on Qin Shuang's head. Her face turned beet red with embarrassment. Though she absolutely loved it, she still put on an arrogant front and said, "Humph, fine, I'll reluctantly accept it then." His teacher, Mr. Tian's words flashed through his mind. He had praised him. "Student Han Yu, you did very well. The school's leadership and the university admissions officers would like to see you for a moment. And of course, these skeleton soldiers will be kept for you." Han Yu was so puffed up with pride. Mr. Tian told him to return quickly. As the two of them followed Mr. Tian to the meeting room, they saw the university admissions officers. From the moment he walked in, Han Yu secretly wondered why three of them were staring intently at him. Could it be that they had discovered his unique divine talent and his life sacrifice ability? A bald teacher began by asking Qin Shuang, "How much divinity value do you currently have?" He knew her family was a true god clan with abundant resources, and in this competition, she had obtained a divine body to create a lord-level life form with it. The teacher with glasses next to him broke into a cold sweat from shock. Qin Shuang hadn't even ascended to demigod status yet, but she was already preparing to cultivate a lord-level life form. It sounded like her probability of success was extremely high. Truly, a young talent. Even for school leaders like himself, who had ascended to godhood long ago, none had ever successfully cultivated a lord-level life form. Qin Shuang answered confidently, "Yes, I have already acquired divinity value points." Han Yu was also surprised. He never expected this girl to be so cunning, secretly accumulating 4 divinity points. Her body must have been enhanced with at least 450 million divine power. She was inhumanly rich, so rich it would make anyone's eyes turn red with envy. The bald teacher rested his chin on his hand and said, "Student Qin, with your qualifications, you already meet the admission requirements for our 3 universities. Wait until you've finished cultivating your lord-level life form. You can apply to any school you wish. Go ahead and complete the procedures to become a probationary student and experience university life in advance." Qin Shuang happily thanked the teacher. Next up, Han Yu. "I will be questioning you. Let's see if you can guess what the teacher is going to ask him." The bald teacher wore a serious expression. "Student Han Yu, we've reviewed your file. Your race is the imperial insect. Is that correct?" Han Yu confirmed. "That's right." After hearing this, the teacher marked an M on his paper. Then the teacher asked again, "Your divinity value is 1 point. Is that correct?" Han Yu replied, "That's not wrong." The admissions teacher was a little disappointed and made another cross mark. All the admissions teachers were very curious about the heroic Swordwind tribe. It was in Han Yu's godly domain, yet somehow during this test, a withered Bone Lord incarnation had been discovered. They didn't know how he had managed that. Han Yu frowned. It seemed they still didn't know about his divine ability. If that was the case, Han Yu naturally saw no need to rush and tell them about it. Han Yu said, "May I choose not to answer that question?" The 3 admissions teachers glanced at each other and said, "We're sorry, student Han Yu. Although you are very outstanding, there are some aspects where you still don't meet our requirements. If you wish to enroll in one of our 3 universities, please continue to maintain that level of excellence. We'll see you again during the college entrance exam." Director Shu's face showed a hint of regret over Han Yu's exceptional talent. When he saw that none of the 3 admissions officers had recognized his potential, Han Yu's attitude remained humble, not arrogant. "Neither arrogant nor insecure," he replied to the admissions teachers. "I understand. I'll work hard. I'll see you all at the college entrance exam." The bald teacher seemed to sense Han Yu's feelings, but gave a perfunctory reply, "I hope your wish comes true." Immediately after, the 3 admissions teachers left. Teacher Tian patted Han Yu's shoulder comfortingly. "It's a top-tier school with high standards. Everyone acknowledges that, so it's normal not to get in. If you're willing, there are still several top schools that want you as a preparatory student." Han Yu said firmly, "Teacher Tian, there's no need. I only want to get into Capital University." He still had to fulfill his grandfather's dying wish and search for his missing parents. Capital University. Han Yu had to go. Seeing his resolute attitude, Tianwen knew that further persuasion would be pointless. He just assumed Han Yu was having a momentary fit of pique and would change his mind after a while. Walking out of the meeting room, Han Yu saw Qin Shuang leaning against the door outside. It looked like she was waiting for him. Qin Shuang suddenly spoke up. "After I cultivate a Lord-grade life form, I'll go be a preparatory student at a high-end academy. The resources there are very suitable for my development." Han Yu replied, "Congratulations." Qin Shuang asked, "Do you want to go to Capital University in the future?" Han Yu said firmly, "Yes, I must get into Capital University." His main goal was to go to the Sea of Chaotic Stars and search for his parents' whereabouts at Capital University. Qin Shuang's face flushed slightly, and her words became more emotional. "Then, I'll choose Capital University. However, with my status as a preparatory student, I'll definitely receive a lot of resources when I enter the school. I'll level up quickly. By the time we meet again, you'd better be a worthy opponent for me." It seemed that even now, Qin Shuang hadn't given up on the idea of making him her slave, trying to secure the deal before she even became a student at Capital University. Han Yu gave a wry smile. As a proud man, how could he possibly become a slave? He could stand on his own 2 feet and didn't want to be dependent. Han Yu turned and walked away first. "Goodbye, Qin Shuang. I need to prepare for this harvest." Qin Shuang seemed a bit reluctant. Her eyes following Han Yu's departing figure, she let out a soft sigh. She scolded affectionately, "He's just as stubborn as those skeletons of his, but it's also a little cute." Meanwhile, inside Han Yu's divine domain, the The rewards from the recent exam had been transferred to his account. A divinity card was glowing with a magnificent and noble light. Han Yu didn't hesitate and quickly absorbed the divinity card. His information panel changed accordingly. Han Yu smacked his lips. Adding 1 point of divinity didn't seem to make much of a difference from before. Some newly emerged beings could upgrade equipment for their kin to boost their combat power. But the most important thing was to build a transitional path for the Imperial bugs. He used the essence of perdition to construct the path of perdition. It would increase their resistance, make their life force more tenacious, and enhance their other stats and magic resistance. In short, they would evolve in a defensive direction, directly upgrading to elite life forms. Then I'll call you all perdition bugs. Next, Han Yu used the heart of the black magic dwarf to build the path of dark curse psionics. This type could conceal itself while flying and inflict various negative effects on the enemy. He named them dark curse bugs. A worried prayer reached him, informing Han Yu that someone had accidentally decomposed the holy artifact staff he had granted them while breaking down ore. Han Yu frowned and flew straight to the decomposition site. There, Tai Jue and his brother were kneeling and trembling, apologizing to Han Yu. Seeing Tai Jue's state, Han Yu gave a wry smile, extended his hand to help him up, and said, "Remember this failure. From now on, work more carefully." Hearing he wasn't being punished, Tai Jue's eyes immediately reddened, filled with endless gratitude. He looked towards the decomposition site, a little curious about what the holy artifact would break down into. After a while, the decomposer finally stopped. Han Yu quickly took out the items from inside. There were 2 fire essences, a golden core, and a holy artifact material in its original form. It could be used to upgrade and repair holy artifacts. He vaguely wondered, could his damaged law of gluttony be repaired? Han Yu took out the law of gluttony and the holy artifact material, and they immediately merged. He could clearly feel a change in the law of life. Before, it took 1,000 times their body's energy to evolve into an elite life form. But this time, after a common life form consumed energy exceeding 999 times its body mass, the requirement was now lower than before. If he had enough source of holy artifacts, Han Yu could completely repair the law of gluttony, but holy artifact materials had to be extracted from holy artifacts. Where was he supposed to find so many holy artifacts? Han Yu went online to see what the netizens were saying. After browsing for a while, he found all sorts of answers, none of them useful. But one post caught Han Yu's attention, about repairing a divine weapon. It even mentioned holy artifact weapons or materials. He immediately sent a message. "Perhaps I can help you, if you need it. Contact me." It wasn't even a few minutes before someone contacted him. The voice on the other end was skeptical. "Can you really help me repair my weapon?" Han Yu replied. "I can only say I'll give it a try. After all, you've had that post up for a long time without finding a good solution. You've got nothing to lose by trying one more time. If you trust me, then send me some holy relics to check out." The person on the other end was still hesitant, afraid he was a scammer, and warned, "I've downloaded the God's Domain Anti-Fraud Center app, so don't even try to trick me. Tell me, what level of holy relics do you need? If it's below level 4, I can give them to you right now. But if it's above level 4, it'll take some time." Han Yu couldn't help but marvel. "This guy is loaded," he said. "Level 1 will be fine." Less than a minute later, a massive package dropped in front of him. He guessed there were about 100 holy relics inside, and he was completely stunned. Should I just grab the goods and run? But if he bailed and got flagged by that God's Domain Anti-Fraud Center, he'd be totally screwed. Making up his mind, Han Yu dumped the 100 holy relics into the decomposer. After 2 hours, 109 blocks of holy relic materials were produced. Han Yu muttered to himself, "Taking out 9 blocks probably won't be noticed." He packed up and sent off 100 blocks of holy relic materials. Soon after, the client called him, gushing with thanks. "Master, you're my savior. My name is Yuan Zhang, and I'm begging you, you have to help me." Han Yu gave a wry smile. The name Yuan Zhang was certainly unique. At school, with countless netizens watching, Liu Yuetian reluctantly handed over the level 3 healing divinity to Tian Wen. Teacher Tian accepted it with a gleeful expression. Liu Yuetian said resentfully, "Teacher Tian, this isn't over. We'll see who gets the last laugh." Then he stormed off. Back in his apartment, Tian Wen immediately began to absorb the divinity. Very quickly, the divinity was completely absorbed. His divine power seemed to have grown stronger, bringing him one step closer to becoming a true god. Suddenly, Han Yu called. Tian Wen answered, asking curiously, "Han Yu? What's up?" Han Yu said, "Teacher, I'm calling you today to ask how I can get high-grade core resources to upgrade my god's domain." He had tried searching online, but after scrolling for a while, he basically found nothing. Tianwen chuckled. Rare resources like divinities, godhood, or core fragments can't be listed online at all. The moment they're put on the shelf, they're snatched up by major corporations. They never even reach the likes of us. Tianwen was the type to repay his debts, especially since Han Yu had helped him win the bet against Liu Yuetian, so Tianwen was willing to give him something from his own collection. Tianwen had also encountered a situation where his god's domain core was too low level. Even if he had holy relics with good attributes, there was no way to absorb them. Tianwen had a decent relationship with a senior alumnus who had once gotten him into a competition. It was called the Blood Tournament. The winner of each competition would receive a god's domain core fragment as a reward. Tianwen asked Han Yu, "If you want to fight against citizens of other gods' domains or even races from other civilizations, it could result in massive casualties for your kin. Do you dare to accept?" Han Yu thought about how he'd spent a ton of money raising his kin. This was a perfect opportunity to test their strength. Han Yu replied, "No problem, teacher. I may not have money, but I've got plenty of kin." The next day, at the blood tournament arena, Han Yu was like a country bumpkin in the big city, looking around with fascination and curiosity. Tianwen handed Han Yu a mask that could conceal his identity and prevent demigods from investigating him. After all, this was an outer realm, so they had to be careful. Tianwen pulled Han Yu over to the registration area. "Just fill in some basic information here." As he did, Tianwen explained the rules of the place. The matches are divided into 3 types based on the opponent's levels: divine creature matches, demigod matches, and true god matches. Unless a participant specifically requests it, matches between different levels normally don't happen. Furthermore, there's no limit to the number of kin you can use, but to surrender during a match, the number of kin casualties must be greater than 50%. For stubborn contestants, the casualty rate often reaches 100%. After filling out the registration form, Han Yu had a pretty good grasp of the rules. Immediately after, he received a notification to prepare for teleportation. A moment later, Han Yu was teleported into the arena. Looking up at the stands, he could hear the excited chatter of the audience. Even from several kilometers away, he could hear them clearly. From the crowd's discussion, Han Yu learned that he would be facing someone called Cruel Rat. A large line of text appeared before his eyes. "Contestants, please release your kin. The match will begin in 3 minutes." Han Yu saw his opponent had already summoned his kin countless rats, each only half a meter tall, swarming the area. There had to be at least 30,000 of them. He laughed maniacally. "After my rats wipe out your pathetic kin, I'll let you go." Han Yu smiled and summoned the core of his kin, the locust swarm. In an instant, a massive number of locusts flew out, completely blanketing the entire sky. Seeing this spectacle, it wasn't just the rat guy. Even the spectators were all wide-eyed in astonishment. He sneered, seeing that Han Wu's familia core was just a swarm of locusts. How strong could they be? They were nothing but living targets. He was confident he could wipe them out quickly. The 3-minute countdown ended, and the match began. The rat men drew their crossbows and fired arrows at the swarm. Thousands of arrows rained down on Han Wu. He made a split-second decision and commanded, "Sinking bugs, defend." A huge number of locusts flew out, forming a solid defensive shield that blocked wave after wave of arrows. The number of casualties was incredibly small. Seeing that the first volley was ineffective, the young rat lord grew furious and ordered his familia not to stop. "Keep firing." Han Wu commanded his dark curse bugs to strike them. They used their stealth technique, melting into the shadows and moving silently behind the enemy before unleashing their curses. Weakening curse. Blinding curse. Nearly all the rat men were afflicted, unable to even draw their bows. Han Wu issued another divine order: heavenly demon bugs, attack. Countless heavenly demon bugs flew over the sinking bug's protective barrier, soaring into the air and raining down long, poisonous barbs on the rat men. In the blink of an eye, a huge number of the rat men were wiped out. Everyone was shocked to see that Han Wu's familia had a survival rate of 99.99%. Meanwhile, the rat tribe's survival rate plummeted to just 22.7%. The young rat lord couldn't believe it was real. Heartbroken, he conceded defeat. A tower of rat corpses now stood on the battlefield. Han Wu really wanted to take all the bodies with him, but a moment later, he dismissed the thought. Han Wu collected the god's domain core fragment, noting it felt very similar to the power of a life sacrifice. This was his prize for the match. The battle ended, and he prepared to be teleported back to the waiting area. Tianwen walked over and clapped him on the shoulder in praise. "You did it, kid. to win your first match so easily? You won your teacher a whole lot of divine power." Han Wu agreed to a second match to give his combat-inexperienced familia more training. On the 32nd day, Han Wu had lost 100 million heavenly demon bugs to achieve 89 consecutive wins, and he received a large number of God's domain core fragments, enough to reach level 7. Upgrading to level 8 would be even more difficult. It would require more fragments than all the previous levels combined. Tianwen smiled and asked, "Do you want to try fighting a demigod?" Han Wu was stunned. He asked, "If a mere divine creature challenges a demigod, how much will the reward increase?" Tianwen said, without exaggeration, "It would be about 10 times more than the spoils you're getting now. If you win, after 90 consecutive victories, you'll get 90 common God's domain core fragments." Hearing this, Han Wu's heart pounded. Han Wu immediately registered for a match above his level, wanting to experience the challenge for himself. The onlookers scoffed when they saw Han Wu challenge a demigod, thinking he was being arrogant and overconfident. The betting odds for this match soared to 1 to 100. Han Wu told Tianwen to bet 10 million divine power on him to win. Tianwen praised him. "You've got some serious guts, kid." However, Tianwen only bet 5 million divine power on Han Wu to win. Even if he lost, the pain would be bearable. And after the kid won, he planned to buy a divine artifact to reward himself. Han Wu casually thanked his teacher, but then it hit him. "Wait, why are you buying a divine artifact to reward times yourself? Asterisk. What's that got to do with me?" Han Wu entered his god's domain. After upgrading it, he noticed that no new holy artifacts had been added yet. He saw that the Law of Gluttony and the Poison Fog Pearl were a bit different than he'd imagined. Yuanzhang asked, "Sir, will you be refining holy artifact materials today?" Han Wu remembered Yuanzhang's earlier promise to find holy artifacts below level 4 for him. He didn't hold back, saying, "I need powerful level 2 holy artifacts with poison, earth, dark, and fire attributes. Getting all 4 of those types would be best." Yuanzhang told him to wait a moment. Soon, a massive package was delivered. Han Wu couldn't help but marvel once again at how different life was for the wealthy. Han Wu found 2 level 2 holy artifacts that were perfect for his sinking bugs and dark curse bugs. The first was the Fierce Fire Magma Ball, with earth and fire attributes. It could enhance the familia's defense and resistance. At the same time, it improved the familia's recovery capabilities. The second was the Shadow Spike. After this dark attribute holy artifact was integrated into the god's domain core, it would allow his contracted familia to learn the level 2 skill, Shadow Spike. The Shadow Spike skill would shoot a spike of shadow into the opponent, restricting their movements. This would achieve an immobilizing effect. When he fused these 2 items into his god's domain core, the locust swarm seemed to evolve once more. Their future combat performance would be even more stable. An announcement rang out. "Contestants, please enter the arena and prepare." In the blink of an eye, Han Wu was teleported into the arena. This time, the battlefield was enormous compared to his previous matches. Cheers from the crowd echoed from all directions. Standing opposite Han Wu was his opponent for the day, the Elephant Lord. He spoke arrogantly. "A rookie, huh? You'd better prepare a funeral for that little familia of yours." His expression made it clear he didn't even consider Han Wu an opponent. Han Wu didn't answer. The Elephant Lord raised his voice and summoned his legion of giant mammoths. Behind him, tens of thousands of colossal mammoths appeared. Leading the charge was the hero unit, a giant thunder mammoth. The crowd erupted in gasps of astonishment. The crowd roared, "Crush him, Elephant Lord! How epic and majestic!" The demigod basked in the endless praise the netizens were showering upon him. He said to Han Yu, "All right, rookie, it's your turn. Do your best to impress me." Not one to be outdone, he summoned his locust clan, including the venomous blast demon bugs nurtured by the gluttony nest. There were also the Shadow Curse bugs, with their Shadow Spike spell, and the Earth Blast Ruin bugs, with their Earthfire Magma Ball spell, both also cultivated in the Gluttony Nest. Their numbers were so great, they blotted out the entire sky. The Elephant Lord was in awe. Facing a swarm of locusts this massive, he could tell Han Yu must have poured an immense amount of effort into raising them. He was really looking forward to this match. The preparation time ended, and the battle officially began. The Elephant Lord ordered his legion of giant mammoths to charge. Han Yu, not backing down, commanded his Shadow Curse bugs to attack. Shadow spikes shot out, piercing directly into the mammoth shadows and causing their movements to become sluggish. Every movement became incredibly difficult. They were frozen in place, standing still like statues. Han Yu quickly ordered the venomous blast demon bugs to strike, flapping their wings and firing poisonous quills straight at the giant lightning mammoth's head. But you have to understand, a mammoth's hide is incredibly thick and tough. Even for these superhuman creatures, the venomous blast demon bugs could only pierce the skin slightly with all their might. It was nothing more than a tickle to them. The elephant lord roared with laughter. Han Yu said firmly, "Are you so sure about that?" Before he could even finish, the venomous blast demon bugs' bodies exploded, spraying massive clouds of poisonous bone shards everywhere. Those poisonous quills were driven in deeper, successfully delivering the toxins into the giant lightning mammoth's body. The elephant lord guessed that Han Yu was trying to win with overwhelming numbers, so he had his giant mammoth legion charge forward to protect the giant lightning mammoth. Answering in kind, Han Yu commanded his explosive magma locusts to attack. They flew towards the mammoth legion and self-destructed, causing massive casualties. The elephant lord watched this scene unfold, his expression turning grim. He had gravely underestimated Han Yu. He unleashed his savage taming art, along with armored blood chi and a healing spell. It cost him over half of his divine power, but the results were immediately obvious. The injured mammoths, empowered by the taming art, began to heal, their wounds closing rapidly. A thick layer of blood chi armor materialized around their bodies. Now, the mammoth legion could swat away huge numbers of the self-destructing locusts with just a casual swing of their long trunks. Han Yu was now at a disadvantage. The elephant lord had once again gained the upper hand, but he had no intention of wiping Han Yu out completely. He would allow him to surrender once 50% of his clan was killed. However, the word surrender simply wasn't in Han Yu's vocabulary. Besides, he hadn't even gone all out yet. Han Yu gave the command for the Ox Demon clan to charge into battle. Majestic and powerful, they entered the arena with a fearless spirit, ready to take on anyone. Leading them was the hero-class life form, the Ox Demon Lord. It let out a furious roar, and the others behind it immediately followed suit. This sudden turn of events stunned the Elephant Lord for a few seconds before he could react. He was shocked. He has an Ox Demon clan too? This species was known to be incredibly fierce and absolutely loyal to their master. He could only watch helplessly as the ox demons smashed their iron pillars into the heads of his giant mammoths. Once again, Han Yu gave another command, this time for the skeleton tribe to emerge. A portal opened, revealing the skeleton lord sitting majestically upon its throne, radiating an aura of extreme dignity. Flanking it were two figures, the Bone Controller and the Bone Reviver, standing like retainers serving their lord. Han Yu leaped onto the throne, sat right on the skeleton lord, and ordered the Bone Reviver to attack first. The little skeleton lord was furious, but it could do nothing as Han Yu took over its throne. After all, he was their god. Following the order, the Bone Reviver leaped down, flying towards the mammoth corpses to cast its spell. In an instant, a flesh-bound skeleton mammoth rose to its feet. They were now fleshless, having lost their flexible trunks, but their ivory tusks had become even sharper and more ferocious. They charged towards their former comrades in the Mammoth Legion. The Elephant Lord never expected these skeletons to be so tough. He quickly ordered his giant war mammoths to activate their War Stomp ability. They stomped and crushed the skeleton mammoths, reducing them to piles of shattered bone. The shockwave even affected the giant lightning mammoth, allowing its shadow to break free from the binding shadow spikes. It could move normally again. The advantage returned to the Elephant Lord. Seeing this, Han Yu had the Ox Demon clan retreat. The Bone Controller then entered the fray to support the Bone Reviver. Though its own body was small, with every step it took, it absorbed the surrounding bone fragments. It quickly formed into a massive skeleton giant, one that was twice as tall as a mammoth. The Elephant Lord broke into a cold sweat, looking up to see what was clearly a top-tier hero-class being. Not wanting to be outdone, he used his magnification skill, making his giant lightning mammoth grow to the same size as the skeleton giant. It charged furiously, intending to ram the Bone Controller. "You think you can take me that easily?" The skeleton giant grabbed its two tusks, and with all the strength its mother gave it, twisted and slammed the 1,000-ton mammoth to the ground. It intended to get back up and continue the fight, but it had no idea the Bone Controller wouldn't give it the chance. "You think it's over?" Not a chance. Han Yu's giant skeleton immediately followed up with its level 1 skill, pummeling the mammoth with a relentless barrage of punches. It was left with just a sliver of health. The colossal thunder mammoth fought back frantically, using its long trunk to wrap around the skeleton's arm, trying with all its might to throw the Bone Controller to the ground. It took advantage of the giant skeleton being sprawled on the ground and started stomping on it repeatedly. But it never expected the giant skeleton to be so cunning. It wasn't stupid enough to just lie there and get stomped to death. The giant skeleton sprang up like a person, once again using its level 1 skill, Heavy Punch. It rained down blow after blow on the colossal thunder mammoth's head. The giant skeleton then grabbed one of its tusks and snapped it. The elephant lord was completely stunned. He never imagined that the hero-level creature he'd painstakingly raised would be so fragile in front of the giant skeleton. As a hero-level creature, it already possessed its own intelligence and emotions. Having its tusk broken was, for it, an absolute and utter humiliation. Having lost all face, it fought back like a cornered beast, only for the giant skeleton to sit on its head, reach down, and break its other tusk. It was a truly pathetic sight. Even Han Yu himself never expected this. He only intended for the giant skeleton to carefully learn some fighting skills. He never thought the giant bag of bones would grasp them so thoroughly and act so viciously. The colossal thunder mammoth was then sent flying towards the elephant lord with another kick from the giant skeleton. He didn't expect this kind of situation to occur either. While comforting his colossal thunder mammoth, he commanded his other mammoths to surround and kill the giant skeleton. Faced with an attack from a massive herd of mammoths, the giant skeleton showed no fear at all. It stomped, it kicked, and it unleashed every fighting skill in its arsenal. After a long battle, its energy was depleted, and the giant skeleton could no longer fight back against the mammoth herd. This was the very opportunity the elephant lord had been waiting for. He ordered them to crush the giant skeleton at all costs. Han Yu couldn't just watch any longer and ordered the bull demon king to rescue the bone controller. The two sides clashed once again. Some were trampled flat, others were torn to pieces. It was absolute chaos. The bone controller then activated its corpse revival technique. The mammoths that had died were resurrected, becoming skeleton mammoths, and turned to attack the living ones. With this cycle repeating, Han Yu's forces not only showed no signs of dwindling, but actually grew larger and larger. Finally, the winner of the match was clear. The Elephant Lord's forces were only 1,000th of the size of his opponents. The Elephant Lord decisively declared his surrender. The battle against a higher-level opponent was over. Han Yu was completely victorious, collecting the god's domain core fragments. As expected, the ones he got from defeating a demigod were much heavier. Suddenly, a notification sound chimed in his ear. Student Han Yu, the management of the Bloody Arena, requests your presence. In the blink of an eye, Han Yu was teleported into a room. Inside, he asked with a calm expression, "Why did you bring me here? What do you want?" A serious voice replied, "We watched your match. Although there were some tricks involved, it also proved your capability. You are qualified to become an inheritor of the Bloody Arena." Han Yu looked confused as the voice continued. The Bloody Arena was originally a trial to select a successor for the position of master of this place. Any contestant who wins a challenge against a higher-level opponent is qualified to inherit the Bloody Arena. Do you wish to become an inheritor of this place? The moment these words were spoken, Han Yu's heart pounded in his chest. He never expected to be chosen as an inheritor. Han Yu couldn't believe such a juicy prize would fall into his lap so easily. There definitely had to be a catch. A place like the Bloody Arena had a massive flow of people coming and going, with countless races arriving every day. Just the amount of divine power earned from these people each day was no small sum. Han Yu took a deep breath and asked before making a decision, "I'd really like to know, how many other inheritors are there in the Bloody Arena? And after becoming an inheritor, what kind of benefits will I receive, and what responsibilities will I have to bear?" At this, they praised him for his foresight, for not being blinded by the immediate benefits. This was truly beyond their expectations. Currently, there are a total of 349 inheritors in the Bloody Arena. Among them are 221 divine beings, 118 demigods, 9 true gods, and only 1 main god. After becoming an inheritor, you will gain the permanent coordinates of the Bloody Arena, allowing you to teleport at fixed times. Without the need to fly into the Bloody Arena, each teleportation will cost 1 million divine power points. Additionally, you will be permitted to build a special Bloody Arena within your own god's domain, so you can nurture your own followers. As for the responsibility, once the number of inheritors reaches 500, the Bloody Arena will initiate a succession ceremony. Given the nature of the Bloody Arena, the succession ceremony will certainly not be a simple affair at all. It's estimated that the 500 inheritors will be allowed to fight, leaving only the final victor to become the master. However, Han Yu was only the 350th person, so there was still quite a long way to go. A battle where only the final victor remains to become the master. Han Yu was only the 350th successor, still a long way from the 500th. By then, he would have already become a god king anyway. After some thought, weighing the pros and cons, Han Yu decided to become the 350th successor of the Bloody Arena. Instantly, a beam of blood-red light shot onto his left arm, leaving behind a mark. In the blink of an eye, Han Yu was teleported back to the main hall. Tianwen rushed over excitedly, saying, "You're my lucky star. We've really hit the jackpot this time." After saying this, Tianwen handed Han Yu a card containing 1 billion divine power points. Han Yu's hand trembled slightly as he held the card. Seeing his reaction, Tianwen could guess what was on his mind. Teacher Tian advised him to first buy a suitable divine artifact. But Han Yu was just a divine-type creature, not even a demigod. How could he possibly control a divine artifact? Tianwen confidently puffed out his chest, assuring him it was no problem at all. "I just happened to hear about a shop selling divine artifacts. I'm sure they can help you find something suitable there." Suddenly, a figure rushed towards him, shouting, "Hey, Grasshopper, I finally found you." Han Yu quickly turned to Tianwen for help, pleading, "Teacher, save me." Seeing that it was the defeated Elephant Master, Tianwen immediately assumed he was here for revenge. He pulled Han Yu behind him protectively and said, "Humph, with me here, let's see who dares to lay a finger on my student." The Elephant Master quickly explained, holding out his hand in greeting. "I'm a first year at West Capital University. My real name is Xiang Meng." Han Yu reached out and shook Xiang Meng's hand. Xiang Meng remarked that Han Yu didn't look very old, guessing he hadn't taken the college entrance exams yet and must be a preparatory student for some university. But Han Yu scratched his head and said, a little sheepishly, that he wasn't a preparatory student anywhere, he was just a regular high school student. Xiang Meng's jaw dropped in disbelief, certain that Han Yu had to be joking. Han Yu pointed to Teacher Tian, saying, "My teacher is right here. He can vouch for me." Tianwen confirmed that it was true. Xiang Meng was taken aback for a moment, then laughed. "Well, I see you've got good taste. Imperial Capital University is the best of the top 3 universities." Xiang Meng promised to report his potential to the university and advised Han Yu that when he got back, he should try his best to improve his core kin tribe as much as he could, in order to get on the preparatory student list for Imperial Capital University. Han Yu was stunned. Logically, after he had wiped out half of Xiang Meng's kin tribe, he should have been grateful that the guy wasn't looking for revenge, let alone offering to help him. Xiang Meng laughed heartily. The path to godhood is a long one, and it's obviously easier with reliable comrades than it is fighting all by yourself. Besides, by recommending Han Yu, Xiang Meng was sure the university would grant him some resources as a reward for recruiting talent. Han Yu was incredibly grateful. Xiang Meng advised him, "To beat Iron City, you need to get even stronger. Focus on investing more resources into your core kin tribe. It's best if you can nurture some heroic life forms, because on 10,000 Treasure Street, the teacher and his student stood before a shop called the Hidden Treasure Pavilion. The name was somehow both tacky and classic at the same time. Tianwen pushed the door open, and they walked in. A stunningly beautiful and charming woman with long legs greeted them and led them inside. "Please contact Grandmaster Tony for me. Tell him an old friend, Tian, is here to see him." Han Yu frowned to himself. Grandmaster Tony? With a name like that, I wonder if he's even a professional artifact forger. Soon after, a teleportation gate materialized. Tianwen gestured for Han Yu to enter, and they were transported to where Grandmaster Tony was forging an artifact. Han Yu saw a bald man with a fierce expression, holding a steel hammer in one hand and tongs in the other. He looked at them and said, "Old Tian, is this fat sheep you've brought me plump enough this time?" For a second, Han Yu seriously wondered if it was too late to make a run for it. Tianwen coughed in embarrassment. "Tony, be serious. This is my student." Hearing this, Han Yu proudly puffed out his chest. Tony rubbed his bald head and said bluntly, "All right, old Tian's student, let me tell you about my shop's motto. My shop doesn't cheat anyone, young or old. And there's no student discount." Han Yu was fuming. What the hell? What kind of logic is that? Of course there should be a student discount. It's not like it's easy for a student to earn money. I had to risk my life in battle just for these 1 billion divine power points. Tianwen quickly explained to Han Yu, "Look, I know Tony is sharp-tongued and a bit crude, but the gear he forges is genuinely the best there is." Tony let out a hearty laugh. "Old Tian, after all these years, I finally hear some praise coming out of that mouth of yours." Tony's feelings were instantly hurt, and his tone turned sharp. "Huh? What was that you said? If you weren't the one who brought this customer to me, I'd..." Tony took a moment to swallow his anger before leading Han Yu into the showroom. "Come on. Let me show you some of my masterpieces." Wow. It was a spacious showroom, displaying hundreds of divine artifacts. Each piece bore an exclusive seal, indicating it was personally crafted by Tony. This was clearly the work of a master craftsman. Tianwen turned to Han Yu and asked, "So, see anything you like?" Hanvu fell into deep thought. Considering he might face a lower evaluation from Kindu University next, the ancient insect cauldron was valued at 4 godhood points, which converted to about 600 million god power. Hanvu made a serious decision. I want the 2-star divine artifact, the ancient gourd. The 2-star ancient gourd had many useful functions. Its first ability was goo cultivation. It contained a space that could gather up to 100,000 insectoids to perform a goo ritual. Once inside, the insectoids would slaughter each other, and the sole survivor would get a chance to level up. The highest level it could create was a hero-level insectoid lifeform. Its second function was an accompanying divine art, insect attraction. It could draw nearby insectoids closer, with the spell's range depending on the amount of god power invested. Dien Van looked at Hanvu with pride in his eyes, his heart filled with joy. This 2-star ancient gourd wasn't overwhelmingly powerful, but it was indeed the most suitable divine artifact for Hanvu. The kid really has a good eye. When Tony learned which divine artifact Hanvu had chosen, he happily stated the price: 4 godhood points, or 580 million god power. Dien Van pulled Tony aside and had a long, friendly chat. Tony, my man, give me some face, will you? Cut the price a little. If not, at least throw in something as a gift. If you don't show me some respect, I'm gonna start cussing you out. In the end, out of respect for Dien Van, Tony only took 600 million god power points and threw in a scouting eye artifact as a bonus. After the 2 items were all packed up, an excited Hanvu and Dien Van were about to leave. Suddenly, Tony hurriedly called him back. Honored customer, please wait a moment. This guy Tony could change his tune in a flash. He smiled warmly as he brought out a new divine artifact. My dear customer, based on a remnant scroll from a lost civilization, I've crafted a new, special kind of divine artifact. I think it perfectly matches your aura. Curious. Dien Van went over to take a look. He used his demigod abilities to inspect this artifact's functions. To his surprise, this spherical artifact had no effects whatsoever. Dien Van immediately flew into a rage, pointing straight at Tony's face and yelling, "Nice one, Tony. I treat you like a friend, and you treat me like an enemy. Is that it? I just checked this broken ball to see what it could do. Do you really think I wouldn't dare do something to you?" He felt that Tony had shown him zero respect, brazenly trying to scam his student right in front of his face. How could he tolerate this? Tony shook his head frantically, saying, "You two, please calm down and let me explain first. This artifact is called the greedwolf. It comes from a civilization that was lost a long, long time ago. It grows by devouring other divine artifacts." Upon hearing this, both Dien Van and Hanvu were completely stunned. To think the greedwolf came from a civilization that had vanished. This civilization was known for its love of plunder, frequently raiding and seizing divine artifacts. As we all know, once a divine artifact binds to a master, other gods have no way of using it unless that god dies. It looks like a priceless artifact, but it can only be considered a piece of scrap. The ruler of that civilization felt this was a great tragedy and summoned all the skilled craftsmen from across their entire civilization. After many eras of research, they finally created a new type of divine artifact, and that was how this greedwolf came to be. The greedwolf grows stronger by devouring other divine artifacts, and it inherits the abilities of the artifacts it consumes. It was because the greedwolf divine artifact was so powerful that it provoked the wrath of dozens of other civilizations. In the end, under the combined attack of those dozens of civilizations, that civilization vanished forever into the river of time. Tony said enthusiastically, "Honored customer, the shop is currently running a huge promotion. This divine artifact from a vanished civilization can be yours for just 1 billion god power points. What are you hesitating for?" Hanvu was shocked when he heard the price. 1 billion god power points? That's way too cheap. How could a divine artifact that caused the destruction of a mighty civilization be worth only 1 billion god power? What an absolute joke. Seeing Hanvu's doubtful expression, Tony calmly explained the reason. Because what I obtained was only a remnant scroll. Therefore, this version of the greedwolf artifact has a few small flaws. However, it can still devour other divine artifacts to grow. But its growth rate is 10 times slower than the original version. And after devouring an artifact, it can only inherit some passive effects. It can't inherit the accompanying divine arts. Dien Van said bluntly, "So it's just a piece of junk then?" Tony was a bit displeased and pointed right back at Dien Van. "Old Dean, you can insult my character, but you cannot insult my creation." Seeing the two arguing so intensely that they looked like they were about to come to blows, Hanvu immediately said, "I'll buy this divine artifact. However, I'll pay 400 million god power points." Van hurriedly tried to stop him, saying, Hey, Han Vu, 400 million god power is no small number. Besides, even if you have the money, that thing isn't worth it. Do you really trust your gut on this greedwolf artifact? You really think it can devour divine artifacts? A divine weapon? For real? Imagine getting a powerful divine weapon from an enemy, only to find you can't easily destroy it. In that case, wouldn't feeding it to the greedy wolf not only strengthen you, but also weaken the enemy? Hanyu was determined to get this item. He could study it more later. He immediately replied, Teacher Tian, you've actually misunderstood me. I truly have the utmost respect for the divine weapons created by Master Tony. To think he could forge the greedy wolf with just a few remaining fragments of a blueprint. For that achievement alone, I would willingly give him all the divine power I possess. It's just a shame I'm so poor. Right now, I only have 40 million divine power points left. I wonder if Master Tony would be willing to part with his beloved creation. Tony rubbed his bald head, a little moved by the boy's words. Do you really appreciate this divine weapon that much? Hanyu said with conviction. I do. Tony could see the sincerity in Hanyu's eyes. He rubbed his bald head again and laughed heartily. Ah, what the heck, 40 million it is. Money can't buy a kindred spirit. The divine weapon, Greedy Wolf, is yours. The two successfully made a deal. One received 40 million divine power points, while the other received the divine weapon, Greedy Wolf. Back at Hanyu's house, he was eager to complete the binding ritual to officially claim the divine weapon and put his mind at ease. He placed the weapon inside a magic circle and dripped his blood onto it. First up, the Scouting Eye divine weapon completed its binding. Its spirit manifested as a firefly, fluttering in front of Hanyu. Next was the Ancient Cauldron, whose spirit manifested as a big-bellied toad, croaking, Ribbit, ribbit, ribbit. Eager to test the Ancient Cauldron's effect, Hanyu fed 100,000 elite locust lifeforms into its mouth to begin the refinement process. Finally, only the Greedy Wolf divine weapon was left. After absorbing his blood, it showed no reaction at all. He grumbled, What are you, some kind of vampire? Hanyu had no choice but to transfer a large amount of blood to the Greedy Wolf. Only after a long while did it finally complete the binding. The Greedy Wolf divine weapon transformed into a small black wolf and appeared before him. Hanyu stared at it intently, wondering why this greedy wolf looked so much like a husky. The moment it opened its eyes, the little wolf was already demanding to eat a divine weapon. Hanyu frowned. You just got summoned, and you're already affected by the law of gluttony? But my dear ancestor, I'm so broke right now, I'm about to eat dirt. Where am I supposed to get a divine weapon? Hanyu tossed a crystal shard for the little wolf to eat. Seeing the food, its eyes lit up, and it happily gnawed on the crystal. With that done, Hanyu wondered what his other kin were up to. He quickly entered his divine domain to check on them. To his surprise, all his kin were training diligently, not slacking off or becoming complacent. Hanyu thought, using the holy relics I scammed from that resentful species, I finally restored the law of gluttony. It's reached level 3, and the effect is incredibly powerful. They can evolve into elite life forms just by eating. If I keep restoring and upgrading it, I could even evolve common life forms into superhuman life forms. If that's the case, and with my locusts having a surplus of food, couldn't I upgrade all of them into superhuman life forms? That would mean billions of superhuman life forms. Hanyu was so ecstatic at the thought that he just stared blankly in joy. A week later, he went to check again. Just as expected, he had billions of locusts. Seeing that the time was ripe, Hanyu sacrificed all 13 billion locusts. The rewards he received were far greater than before. There were 3 options. The first was 10,000 Night Demon Clan Beast Hunters, a superhuman life form. The second option was a 3-star divine weapon, the Tyrant's Steel Blade. It was both a divine weapon and a holy relic, and could also be used as a level 3 holy relic. It would grant his core kin the ability to summon steel blades as weapons, and would also increase their damage. It gave a 15% damage boost against beasts, and finally, it came with a divine art, Tyrant Body. The third option was a level 2 holy relic, the Stone of Enlightenment. After being loaded into the divine domain's core, it would grant the core kin a chance to be enlightened. To achieve a demi-human form, the core kin had to be a non-humanoid or non-demi-human race. Hanyu's eyes locked onto the third option, the demi-human form. This is so twisted. It's gotta be you. He chose it without a second thought. Instantly, a round orb, the Stone of Enlightenment, fell into Hanyu's hand. Without hesitation, he crushed it. A beam of light shot down, and the locusts began to evolve into Ba-Ren. They became a new species called the Locust People, a superhuman life form with the gift of flight and low-level intelligence. They had humanoid bodies, were ranked as fanatical believers, generated 50,000 faith power per day, and could lay 5 high-quality eggs at a time. Their life cycle was 10 years. Han Yu's eyes shone like stars as he watched this transformation, his heart filled with uncontrollable joy. Whoa, hot damn, oh my god, this is sick. With faith power this high, I'm gonna be rolling in it. Just then, his phone rang. It was his head teacher, Tianwen. The teacher informed him, Han Yu, Jingxi Academy, has announced that they will be conducting another evaluation of you. An admissions teacher will come to the school tomorrow to test you. You need to be well prepared. Han Yu acknowledged the news. Yes, I understand. The next morning, at Siyun High School, Siyin walked up to Han Yu, greeting him and proactively asking, "How has your divine domain's development been lately? If you're short on resources, you can just tell me. Some of the rare stuff isn't sold online, but my family has plenty. We even have ways to get demigod-level items." Han Yu turned back to Siyin and asked, "Can your family produce fragments of a divine domain core? I need some right now." From level 7 to level 10, Siyin hadn't expected Han Yu to ask for such a rare material right off the bat. He said, "We can do it, but the price is a bit steep. Even with our connection, it won't be a small sum. Probably close to 400 million divine power." Han Yu felt a wave of despair after hearing the quote. "Poverty really does limit your growth," Siyin said, his eyes crinkling into a smile as he added, "But my family did say, if you can sell my family 1,000 transcendent skull knights, you can use that to offset the cost." Han Yu readily agreed. Transcendent skull knights, deal. Siyin was surprised by how quickly he accepted. If he'd known, he would have asked for heroic bone controllers instead. Just then, Tianwen entered the classroom and called out to Han Yu. "Han Yu, the examiner is here. He's waiting for you in the faculty office." The recruitment teacher looked at him with a hint of surprise in his eyes. "It's you?" He hadn't expected this kid, Han Yu, who hadn't even passed the preliminary stage, to somehow get into the advanced selection. But so what if he got in? The Jingxi Academy's test is far more difficult than any high school exam. Furthermore, to prevent cheating, the test is restricted. Only core familiars can participate. And what are this kid's core familiars? The lowest tier locusts? The recruitment teacher questioned Han Yu. "Now, I will, on behalf of Jingxi Academy, conduct your assessment. Do you have any questions?" Han Yu replied, "No." The teacher continued. The assessment followed the standard procedure. He said, "For this test, you will have to infiltrate a small town on the frontier of a giant civilization. It's called Duolong City. That civilization has a rigid class hierarchy and a well-established job system. You and your familiars will both be affected after being identified as harmful monsters. The class users in Duolong City will actively try to eliminate you, hunt you down, and might even pursue you to the death. You have only one mission. You must even hunt down one of Duolong City's guardian heroes." Unsure how to gauge the number of heroes, Han Yu asked, "Sir, I'd like to ask, what is the total military strength of Duolong City, and how many heroes does it have?" The teacher said, "Although it's a small frontier town, it has tens of thousands of residents, and the proportion of class users exceeds 10%. As for heroes, there are 5 in total. You'll have to find out any other information yourself once you enter that civilization. You have 1 hour to prepare." Han Yu didn't hesitate and turned to Tianwen. "Mr. Tian, I'd like to use the points I recently earned to exchange for 3 level 1 sacred artifacts." Tianwen fully supported his decision. Han Yu entered his divine domain core and integrated the domain fragment into it. In an instant, the divine domain core leveled up to 10, and its space expanded. So, Han Yu decided to integrate the 3 level 1 sacred artifacts he just acquired. First, the poison gland. After integrating it into the divine domain core, there's a chance the core familiars will gain the poison attribute and develop poison glands. Second, the earth core. After integration, there's a chance the core familiars will gain the earth attribute, boosting their defense. Finally, the elf cluster bow, which is both a sacred artifact and a divine power weapon. After integration, there's a chance the core familiars will be able to summon cluster bows as energy weapons. The divine host gains the ability to summon a semi-corporeal elf cluster bow. After the successful integration, all of the core familiars in Han Yu's divine domain underwent a massive transformation. Most of the heavenly demon bugs grew poison glands, and half of the fallen bugs had their defenses upgraded, and all the locust men could now fight using cluster bows. He felt much more confident about this assessment. The next day, the preparation time was over. He appeared before the recruitment teacher once again. The teacher took out a golden sphere, placed it in front of him, and said, Once you grasp this, you and your core familiars will be transported together to the outskirts of Duolong City. Han Yu did as he was told, and in a flash, he was teleported to a primeval forest. Suddenly, a series of urgent warnings blared out. Intruder detected. Please leave the current area immediately. Otherwise, you will be classified as a monster and will be eliminated. The intruder refused to leave. Confirmed as a monster, codenamed Demon Locust King, calculating monster level, initiating monster interface. After a series of notifications, a personal information panel appeared before Han Yu. He immediately checked the stats of his two heroic life forms, the newly acquired locust men. Tada! The information was updated, displaying the following content. Race, explosive magma, heavenly demon locust man. Level 60, no class, no equipment, but possesses the talents magma self-destruct, berserk, and gluttony. Capable of flight, possesses intelligence, has a humanoid body, and skills like magma spew and summon cluster bow. Han Yu muttered, level 60. Level 60? What did that even mean? Before taking the test, it was impossible to tell. Just then, a locust demi-human rushed over to report, "My lord, creatures are attacking us." Han Yu immediately leaped onto the back of a subjugation bug and ordered it to move out to assess the situation. Elsewhere, Toner, an adventurer who had completed his second-class advancement, carried a massive greatsword on his shoulder. He looked up, stunned by the dense swarm of locusts filling the sky. How could so many monsters appear out of nowhere? A Wrath Fist Master, an adventurer who had completed his first-class advancement, said while cornering a locust, "Toner, you should be happy about this. More monsters means a bigger bounty for us. If we earn enough, we can finally undergo our second-class advancement and level up our party's strength." Meanwhile, a willow, the wisp excitedly snatched a small fragment of the divine realm to bring back to its master. Next up were a water sage and a fire mage. Both were first-class advancement adventurers. The mage waved her staff, unleashing a torrent of fire that instantly incinerated a huge number of locusts. However weak these locusts are, we'll slaughter them all. Watching his companions easily handle the swarm, Toner's worries eased slightly, but he still reminded everyone to coordinate carefully. They were completely unaware that high above, Han Yu was watching their every move. His imperial firebugs were scouting. They quickly gathered useful intel on the enemy. Toner was the strongest of the group, a level 3, second-class advancement dragon blood warrior. He wielded the Steel Slicer greatsword and was equipped with divine power armor, a faith-based item. His talents included battle intent, greatsword mastery, and dragon blood, with skills like shatter slash and mighty cleave. Han Yu also noticed something on all four of their bodies. They all wore the same style of metal, with one key difference. Toner's was made of silver, while the other three were bronze. Han Yu smirked. "So you're the leader, huh, Toner?" Seeing the locust swarm growing instead of shrinking, Toner said uneasily, "There are too many of them. We can't kill them all. Prepare to retreat." But was Han Yu about to let them get away that easily? He immediately turned and gave an order to the locust demi-human, "Go, test their strength." Obeying the command, the locust leaped down to block Toner's party. "You're not going anywhere." Toner, who was leading the retreat, screeched to a halt. He cried out in shock. "It's a third-class advancement monster. Run!" Toner yelled back, urging his comrades on. "Split up. I'll buy you some time," Toner charged, bringing his Steel Slicer greatsword crashing down, with immense force onto the locust demi-human, Mighty Cleave. But unfortunately for him, this opponent was a level 60 locust demi-human. The powerful cleave barely scratched it, leaving only a tiny mark on its skin. Toner's jaw dropped in disbelief. "It's too strong. We don't stand a chance." The locust casually kicked out, sending Toner and his greatsword flying 1,000 yards. The remaining three were quickly caught by the locust demi-human, who effortlessly captured them and tied all four up together. Then, Han Yu revealed himself. Seeing him approach, the Wrath Fist Master began screaming in fury. "Don't you come near us, you hideous monster. Stay away." Han Yu looked disgusted. "You dare call a handsome man like me hideous?" He frowned and asked, "If you want to get out of here alive, you'll answer my questions. In your eyes. What do I look like?" The Wrath Fist Master stubbornly retorted, "I'd never answer a monster like you." Suddenly, the locust demi-human eliminated him on the spot. Even Han Yu was shocked by its action. He turned and furiously yelled at it. "I just told you to scare him. Why would you actually kill him?" The fire mage and water sage screamed in terror at the sight. Annoyed by the noise, Han Yu snapped. "It's deafening. Locust, cast a curse. Poison them all." seeing his comrades fall before his very eyes. Toner demanded furiously, "What do you want from us?" Han Yu asked once again. "I'm asking you, in your eyes, what do I look like?" Toner replied with a trembling voice, "Your eyes are huge, and you have long antennae." From his description, Han Yu started to form a mental image of his own appearance. Wait, am I just a giant locust? Maybe the system is trying to create an ugly image to intimidate intruders. Han Yu continued his questioning. Good, keep answering. After 3 hours of interrogation, Han Yu finally got the information he needed. He then untied Toner and said, "All right, I've asked enough. You can go." Although suspicious, Toner didn't hesitate and immediately ran for his life. He had to report the news of the massive monster army to the Adventurers Guild as soon as possible. But what he didn't realize was, Han Yu, riding his subjugation bug, was secretly following him all the way back to his base. A city really did exist here. Han Yu's expression turned serious. "So this is the real destination. Sorry, but I can't let my existence be revealed just yet. You just get some rest until my mission is complete. Once I'm gone, you'll be fine." And with those words, and immediately ordered the goblin archers to fire an arrow at him. According to Ta An, there are hundreds of thousands of adventurers in the Dragon City Guild. How could the three of us, with combat power equivalent to the third-class advancement, possibly be enough? Han Yu analyzed the situation with a heavy head. He had to find a way to increase his high-end combat power. At the very least, he needed to be level 60 with a third-class advancement before he could even make a move. He mulled it over and over, and finally came up with a brilliant plan: expand his army. Using his scouting vision, Han Yu discovered a goblin tribe. Although most of the goblins were low level, their leader was level 62 and had even reached the third-class advancement. After some investigation, Han Yu learned that the goblin chief had obtained its class by devouring numerous adventurers who held class fragments. This sparked a brand new, unique idea in Han Yu's mind. He said cheerfully, "Eating class fragments grants a class? In that case, my locusts can get a class advancement too." Afterwards, Han Yu instructed his locust brethren to keep an eye on the adventurer's movements and collect class fragments for him. After 3 days passed, Han Yu had collected a great number of class fragments. Seeing that the time was ripe, he immediately took them all to perform a class fusion. Through the fusion process, Han Yu obtained 4 class types: sorcerer, martial artist, warrior, and archer. From the selection panel, he chose Archer, as he was lacking a long-range attack method, and it was a perfect fit for his hero unit, the Locust Man. Finally, a perfect version of the Jia Xiang Tianmo Locust Man was upgraded. It was currently at level 60, but it had the potential to reach level 65 by absorbing soul essence to level up its profession. The Archer had no equipment, but its talents were endless. Demonic ink, self-destruct, brutality, gluttony, flight, low-level intelligence, humanoid form, and aiming, along with the top-tier skills. Han Yu was overjoyed. It's a success. If it can absorb another corresponding first-class advancement class, it will definitely be able to upgrade to the third-class advancement. When that time comes, wouldn't capturing a hero be incredibly easy? At that moment, a locust flew up and buzzed in his ear, reporting, "Divine One, we have found a mountain cave. Inside that cave, a pressure is being released that makes it impossible for us to get close." Han Yu was instantly intrigued. "Take me there." The locust led the way to the cave entrance. As Han Yu stepped inside and moved forward, he could feel a very powerful aura, mixed with a hint of divine power. This is definitely worth investigating. Flanking Han Yu were 2 Jia Xiang Tianmo locust men. The 3 of them moved slowly and cautiously deeper inside, approaching the source of the oppressive aura. Unexpectedly, deep within the cave, they discovered a black dragon, tightly bound by layer upon layer of chains wrapped around its body. A slight smile appeared on Han Yu's face. He had heard his teacher mention in class that some civilizations from other worlds often seal enemies that cannot be easily killed. Looking at it now, this black dragon must be some poor creature sealed here by a powerful expert. Feeling a sliver of pity, Han Yu ordered the Baoxiang Huangjong to use its eye of exploration to gather information. Its name was Black Dragon Eofi, level 103, currently in a sealed state. Otherwise, its original level was 149. Its class was Rebel. It belonged to a special race, and it had the bloodline talents of a great dragon and dark breath. Much of its information was still unknown. As Han Yu was examining the Black Dragon's information, it seemed to sense that it was being watched. It suddenly opened its eyes, its golden pupils seeming to hold a hypnotic, magical power. The two Jia Xiang Tianmo locust men began to walk willingly towards the black dragon's mouth. Han Yu noticed just in time and stopped them, preventing them from becoming the black dragon's dessert. Seeing a meal that was about to enter its mouth slip away, the black dragon became furious. How dare you interfere with the great rebel dragon Eofi's meal? I will corrode your soul and devour your flesh and blood. With that, the black dragon opened its massive maw, gathered a mass of dark energy in its mouth, and fired it towards Han Yu. He was currently no match for it, so out of the 36 stratagems, fleeing was the best option. He and his locusts split up and hid outside. After about 5 minutes, Han Yu peeked out from behind a rock wall and taunted, "Are you out of moves yet?" The enraged black dragon unleashed its dark energy again. "You scum! You dare play such vile tricks on the great rebel dragon Eofi? I will never forgive you." Han Yu ran again, but 10 minutes later, he returned to taunt the black dragon. After 2 full power attacks that yielded no results, it was now completely exhausted, with no energy left to release its dark power. Seeing that the black dragon was no longer raging, Han Yu spoke up, "I'm back, but I'm not here to fight you. On the contrary, I'm here to help you." The black dragon was far from believing the deceitful human, saying coldly, "The great rebel dragon Eofi has already seen through your tricks. Get out of here before I get angry, or I'll devour you," Han Yu said with a cold smile. "You're trapped here, and you still think you can devour me whole? What a joke." He pulled out his star cluster bow and fired an arrow at the black dragon. But before it could even harm the beast, it was deflected by the dragon's scales. The black dragon sneered in contempt. "Pathetic insect. The defenses of the great rebellious black dragon Eophil are invincible. You can't even scratch me." Han Yu's expression turned serious. He drew the steel-slicing greatsword from his back and attacked the black dragon with all his might. "Then let me try this." Finally, a small gash appeared on the black dragon's scales, but for a creature of its immense size, this tiny wound was nothing. Seeing this, Han Yu, with a solemn look, raised the steel-slicing greatsword once more. He poured 10,000 points of divine power into it, unleashing a powerful attack, the wind-severing slash. As expected, this slash left a massive wound on the black dragon, from which blood began to pour out relentlessly. The black dragon felt intense pain from the wound. It desperately wanted to fight back, but unfortunately, it was sealed by chains. Unable to move, it could only roar. "You lowly insect! How dare you harm the great rebellious black dragon Eophil? I will." Before it could finish, Han Yu brought out the steel-slicing greatsword again, pointing it straight at the dragon's face. "I still have plenty of weapons. Who knows, you might just end up dead." Hearing the subtle warning in his words, the black dragon reluctantly decided to cooperate. "What do you want?" Han Yu got straight to the point. "I have a dream, and that is to kill a certain hero in Dragon City, but I'm not strong enough to handle it alone, so I want your help." The black dragon snorted coldly, its voice tinged with helplessness. "The great rebellious black dragon, Eophil, has been sealed here for hundreds of years. There's no way for me to leave. How can I possibly help you? The chains binding me are a special creation of the Adventurers Guild. They were made to seal me. Not even my dark power can corrode them in the slightest, let alone your weapons." Hearing this, Han Yu's eyes lit up. He asked, "So you're saying these chains are divine artifacts?" The black dragon replied, "That's right. The great rebellious black dragon, Eophil, does not lie." Han Yu said cheerfully, "In that case, I have a way." He took out a golden sphere and said, "Little wolf, eat your fill." With that, he placed the sphere on a gleaming black chain. The sphere transformed into a ball of fire, melting the chain. A moment later, the sound of a breaking chain echoed. The black dragon's eyes widened in disbelief at the sight before it. It couldn't contain its surging excitement and joy, urging Han Yu, "Quickly, break the rest of them for me. The great rebellious black dragon Eophil commands you." At this, Han Yu recalled the gluttonous wolf divine artifact and stared at the black dragon. A little annoyed, he asked, "What was that tone?" The black dragon was extremely anxious. It yearned for the freedom it had awaited for so long. It couldn't let this chance slip away. It roared once more, "Break my chains right now. The great rebellious black dragon Eophil commands you." Han Yu said unhurriedly, "Oh, great rebellious black dragon Eophil, I broke one of your chains to show my sincerity. So, are you going to help me or not? You're giving me orders? On what grounds?" The black dragon was desperate to get out and quickly asked, "What do you want the great rebellious black dragon Eophil to do for you? Kill a hero? I'll do it. Now, release me from these chains." Seeing the dragon's desperate state, Han Yu suddenly had a better idea. He said, "I've changed my mind. I want you to serve me for 100 years as a reward for rescuing you." The black dragon let out a roar that shook the entire cave. You despicable piece of trash, are you delusional? I am the great, rebellious black dragon Eophil. Han Yu frowned and warned, if I can save you, I can also kill you. If you're unwilling to meet my demands, you'll just become a stepping stone for me to increase my power. I've heard that dragons are living treasure troves. I wonder if I should take some of your bones to craft a few nice weapons? The black dragon was threatened by Han Yu once again. After a few seconds of hesitation, it finally chose to compromise. It replied, the great rebellious black dragon Eophil is willing to serve you for 100 years. Please, unchain me as soon as possible. I don't want to remain in these shackles for another second. Of course, Han Yu wouldn't completely trust the black dragon's empty promise. Not so fast. So, he drafted a small contract. It stated that the dragon would serve as his retainer for 100 years. Han Yu smiled cheerfully. Please sign the contract. After reading the terms, the black dragon felt its dignity had been gravely insulted. It roared in anger. Isn't this just making me a slave? Don't even think about it. My dragon clan will never be slaves. Han Yu took out a dark star stone, deliberately tempting it. I can sense that you're very weak right now. After you sign the contract, this dark star stone is yours, as a little snack. The dragon was completely mind-controlled, forgetting his dignity as a great dragon, and quickly signed the slave contract. Han Yu immediately threw the dark star stone into the black dragon's mouth, then once again released Greedy Wolf to chew through the remaining chains. Seeing the food, Greedy Wolf's eyes lit up like stars. A few hours later, the great, rebellious black dragon, Effie, was finally completely free. At the Dragon City Guild Hall, 5 heroes gathered to discuss the black dragon that had broken its seal. The martial saint hero proposed, that black dragon has just escaped its seal. It must still be in a weakened state right now. The 5 of us must join forces to destroy it. The beautiful saintess hero spoke gently. Once the black dragon escapes its seal, it will surely find a secret place to hide. It will regain its strength, and the area outside the city is vast. If we want to find it, we'll need the help of all the adventurers in Dragon City. The Icefire swordsman also voiced his opinion. The dark power emanating from the black dragon will cause a large number of monsters to grow stronger. Before the monsters start to rampage, we must strike first and gain the upper hand. The Windwalker hero, feeling the other 3 were being overly cautious, said, it's just one black dragon that just broke out of its seal. Is it really worth worrying so much about? Am I right, big brother Dragon Slayer? The Dragon Slayer hero said arrogantly, it's just a giant dragon. What's there to even discuss? I once killed a wind elemental green dragon by myself, and it didn't disrupt all the adventurers in Dragon City. The martial saint kindly advised the Dragon Slayer, you can never be too careful, but this black dragon is different. According to ancient texts, it is a rebel of the dragon clan. We absolutely must not underestimate it. The Dragon Slayer felt the martial saint was just exaggerating the black dragon's power and looking down on his own strength. The Dragon Slayer's face darkened as he snapped. Are you doubting my strength? I am a 4th-tier dragon slayer blessed by heaven's mandate. My very purpose is to kill dragons. The martial saint suddenly became hesitant, unable to refute him. The dragon slayer confidently declared, I will handle this escaped black dragon. You all just need to protect Dragon City. The Windwalker waved his hand and said, Big brother, Dragon Slayer, I'll go with you and provide support. Let me come with you, okay? With that, the Windwalker scurried after the Dragon Slayer, like a little tail, off to slay the dragon. The black dragon, Effie, perched above Han Yu, further enhancing the dignity of the dragon clan. Han Yu, now borrowing the dragon's authority, summoned a large force of monsters from the 3rd advancement and above, and none of them dared to resist. He presided over the meeting, rallying them. Do you all really want to keep living your days being slaughtered by those adventurers? The great rebel black dragon, Effie, called for all monsters to unite and form a monster alliance to fight against the Adventurers Guild. Our guiding principle will be to hunt adventurers. The monsters heard this and found it hard to believe, asking, Hunt? Adventurers? Can we really do that? But their individual power was limited. To secure a definitive victory, they would have to rely on every last one of their soldiers to control the battlefield. Han Yu took out a brilliant purple energy crystal and said, I can help you improve your strength. Join the Monster Alliance, and you will be rewarded with energy crystals. Monsters of all different races can come to me and exchange the equipment and class fragments you get from killing adventurers for energy crystals. A few days later, Han Yu was soaking in a large cauldron filled with the black dragon's blood, which could help him break through to the 3rd advancement. However, because giving too much blood would make the black dragon dizzy from anemia, it demanded 500 million black star stones as payment. Han Yu was a bit disgusted by the foul, metallic smell of the dragon's blood. The black dragon said, "Stop pretending to be weak. Do you think 500 million black star stones is cheap? How about you let me pay in installments?" He could clearly feel a transformation in his body as the diluted dragon's blood turned into pure black dragon's blood. His second advancement class was upgraded to a third-tier class, Black Dragon Warrior. He obtained the talent, Blood of the Black Dragon, which improved his physical performance by 50%. It increased his resistance to various elements by 50%, significantly boosted his strength, and gave him an affinity for dark attributes. Best of all, he gained the skill Black Dragon Transformation. Excitedly, Han Yu activated the Black Dragon Transformation skill. He felt his muscles swell painfully all over his body, his skin gradually darkened, and a pair of powerful wings sprouted from his back. A few seconds later, Han Yu successfully transformed into a king of demon emperors at level 125. This included a maxed out 85 kindred levels, 20 divine creature levels, and 20 class levels, making him a third advancement Black Dragon Warrior. He possessed the unique talents: Child of Heaven's Choice, Fighting Spirit, Dark Element, Affinity, and Blood of the Black Dragon. He was equipped with the 2-star Ancient Fox Divine Artifact, the Divine Eye of Detection, and the 1-star Greedy Wolf's Shield Artifact, and possessed the ultimate skills: Accelerated Growth, Life Sacrifice, and Summon Heavy Strike of the Sinking Bow, Full Force Slash, Vicious Shadow Dragon Slash, Black Dragon Transformation. Han Yu was pleased with his current progress. He felt he was now strong enough to go head-to-head with the heroes of Multi-Dragon City. The Black Dragon sensed two powerful auras pressing down on it. It stood up and let out an enraged hiss. Han Yu looked up and asked, "What's wrong?" Immediately after, two figures leaped through the air and landed right in front of them. It was the two heroes from Multi-Dragon City. After days of investigating the Black Dragon's whereabouts, the Dragon Slayer's face lit up with joy upon seeing it. A pure-blooded black dragon, just as I thought. If I kill you, my Dragon Slayer class will surely reach a whole new level. With that, he turned to the Wind Ranger and instructed, "Secure the perimeter and don't let any other monsters disturb me." The Wind Ranger, with a look of pure adoration for his idol, said, "Don't you worry, boss. I absolutely will not let any other monster get in your way." As he spoke, the Wind Ranger raised his hand and activated his storm barrier. A whirlwind of gales converged, forming a solid barrier that enveloped an area of over 10 kilometers, preventing any monsters from coming to their aid by keeping everything out. The Wind Ranger looked at Han Yu and remarked, "A-level 125 Demon Emperor King. I never thought there'd be a monster this strong outside Multi-Dragon City, but I won't let you interfere with the Dragon Slayer's battle." Han Yu sneered. He had originally planned to master his skills and then head to Multi-Dragon City to hunt down a hero, but he never expected one to be delivered right to his doorstep. He ordered the Tyrant Locust Emperor to use its Eye of Scouting to gather information on the Wind Ranger. His name was Gay Smit, level 131, a 4th advancement Wind Ranger, equipped with the 1-star divine weapon, the Eye of the Wind God, the 1-star divine weapon, the Greenwood Godly Bow, and his talents were Dagger Mastery, Wind God's Fire, and Storm Incarnation. He possessed the heroic skills, Secret Art, Storm Barrier, Backstab, Windblade Slash, and Iron Flash. The two of them immediately clashed. Han Yu transformed into his Black Dragon humanoid form, wielding two steel-slaying greatswords that he hurled straight at the Wind Ranger. G. Smit effortlessly leaped into the air to dodge his attack. He then instantly teleported behind Han Yu and unleashed a flurry of palm strikes, putting him on the defensive. Fortunately, Han Yu's Black Dragon scale armor protected him from taking any damage. But this wasn't a long-term solution. Han Yu secretly commanded the Locust Swarm to break through the barrier and come to his rescue. On the other side, the Black Dragon situation was far more precarious than Han Yu's. The Dragon Slayer had activated his heroic secret art, the Dragon Slayer's domain. Any dragon he had ever slaughtered was summoned to fight the Black Dragon on his behalf. To its misfortune, the Black Dragon now had to face 4 green dragons all by itself. The battle was incredibly intense. The Dragon Slayer, holding a green sword, leaped up and attacked the Black Dragon from behind. Since the Black Dragon's seal had only recently been broken, its power hadn't fully recovered. Thus, it was quickly overwhelmed by the Dragon Slayer, suffering heavy injuries and defeat in just a few exchanges. He stepped on the Black Dragon's head, arrogantly hoisting his massive blade onto his shoulder, ecstatic. "Dragon Soul, take the Black Dragon back to Multi-Dragon City." Before leaving, the Dragon Slayer looked over at the Wind Ranger, who was still fighting Han Yu, and asked, "Gesmit, do you need my help?" The Wind Ranger confidently replied as he opened a gap in the storm barrier for the Dragon Slayer to leave. "No need, I can handle this myself. You go on ahead, boss. I'll catch up with you soon." Seeing the Dragon Slayer take the black dragon away, Han Yu grew more anxious and urgently commanded the locust swarm, "Whatever the cost, you must break this storm barrier for me." He needed to find a way out quickly to rescue the black dragon. Finally, the storm barrier shattered and countless locusts swarmed in. By this point, Han Yu was covered in injuries from head to toe. Not a single spot on him was unscathed, but he still stood defiantly. The locusts charged at the Wind Ranger like a disturbed hornet's nest. At first, he was confident and underestimated his enemy. But soon, as the number of locusts grew, the energy in the Wind Ranger's body began to rapidly deplete. A pang of fear struck him, and he wanted to flee. Unfortunately, he couldn't escape because the locusts had already cast an inescapable net, making it impossible for him to slip through. The Wind Ranger furiously swung his sword. "Die, die, all of you just die." After a long fight, he was completely exhausted and was swarmed by the locusts, which took the opportunity to gnaw at his body until not a shred of flesh remained. Just as he witnessed the Wind Ranger's death, Han Yu heard a notification in his ear. It was the admissions teacher's voice. "Student Han Yu, congratulations. The mission is complete. The teleportation channel for your return has now been opened." Han Yu said sternly, "Wait a moment. I don't want to go back just yet." Hearing this, the teacher was somewhat surprised. "Student Han Yu, don't tell me you intend to charge into their camp to rescue that black dragon?" Han Yu replied resolutely, "That's right, I have to save it. It has already signed a contract with me," the admissions teacher said with a thoughtful expression. "Student Han Yu, you must think this through carefully. If you go to save the black dragon, you won't just face one Wind Ranger, but 4 heroes stronger than him, plus millions of adventurers and tens of millions of armed civilians who could become soldiers. Against a force like that, even a demigod would have a very high chance of failure. Besides, you are just a minor divine being right now." Han Yu's intention was set in stone as he spoke with determination. "I know. That is why I formally propose to you that I be allowed to release all the tribes in my sacred domain to fight together. In return, I am willing to voluntarily increase the difficulty of the mission and change it to conquering all of Dragonstone City." The old master was startled for a moment and couldn't help but say with some awe, "You're saying you want to challenge the entirety of Dragonstone City? Are you serious? I will grant your request. Finally, I will tell you one more thing. Your true body has descended here, so you must not die here under any circumstances." A teleportation gate opened. All of Han Yu's kin appeared, and surprisingly, they seem to have undergone a transformation upon entering this civilization. For example, the Sword Wasp clan's Iron-Slicing Sword Wasp, a level 140 hero-class lifeform. The Dwarf clan's Divine Hammerforge, a level 113 hero-class lifeform. The Ox Demon clan's Ox Demon Shaman, a level 135 hero-class lifeform. The Skeleton clan's Skeleton Lord, an incomplete Lord-class lifeform, sealed at level 132. The Bone Controller, a level 75 hero-class lifeform, and the Bone Reviver, a level 86 hero-class lifeform. Han Yu noticed that the number of adventurers in Dragonstone City was immense, and although his kin were powerful, their numbers were insignificant compared to the humans. Therefore, he needed to find allies to keep the low-level adventurers in check. It seems the time has come for the Monster Alliance to play its part. Han Yu immediately ordered his locust kin to deliver the news to the Alliance. But when their response came, Han Yu was furious. The vast majority of monsters made all sorts of excuses to refuse his proposal. He decided to confront them, calling upon the Iron-Slicing Sword Wasp and the Ox Demon Shaman. "Follow me to the secret forest. When the house is on fire, the rats reveal themselves." The black dragon had only been captured for a few hours, but without anyone to keep them in line, the Alliance had already splintered into factions, their ambitions burning fiercely. A werewolf instigated, saying, "Now that the black dragon has been defeated, is there any reason for the Monster Alliance to exist? Are we supposed to just wait for the adventurers to come and wipe us out?" He sneered mockingly. "How ridiculous. The black dragon's little locusts actually came to invite us to storm the city and save him. In my opinion, we'd be better off finishing him off ourselves, taking his energy crystals and splitting them evenly." Before he could finish his sentence, his head was sent flying by a single slash, and he fell on the spot. The Green Goblins watched this scene in absolute horror. Han Yu slowly walked forward with a cold smile. "A bunch of disloyal vermin dare to plot against me. Are you tired of living? One goblin who had yet to see the writing on the wall jumped up and retorted, pointing directly at Han Yu's face. "Black dragon, who do you think you are? What gives you the right to treat us like this?" Seeing how these monsters burned the bridge after crossing it, they couldn't blame him for being merciless. Han Yu immediately unleashed an attack that beat the little goblin half to death. He shouted a warning. "I'm not inviting you to attack the city, I am ordering you. Those who defy this order will die." They finally understood fear and retreated, respectfully kneeling on the ground before Han Yu to swear an oath. "My lord, we are willing to obey your command." Han Yu led the way with the spirited monster army, heading straight for Dragonstone City. At this time, inside Dragonstone City, the people were preparing for the dragon-slaying ceremony. The black dragon was tightly bound by chains on all four limbs in the middle of the square. The dragon slayer sat smugly on a high platform, leisurely enjoying a glass of champagne on one side, while observing the square below. Suddenly, a subordinate approached him and whispered, "Lord Dragon Slayer, the dragon-slaying ceremony in the square is all set up. Also, Saintess Rose is asking why the Wind Ranger didn't return with you." The dragon slayer frowned slightly. "It's been 12 hours. Could he have run into trouble on his way back?" He had great faith in the Wind Ranger's strength, so he didn't give it much thought. He simply replied casually, "He's probably just running late. After the dragon-slaying ceremony is complete, I will go find the Wind Ranger myself." Just as he finished speaking, the dragon slayer felt a tremor run through the ground. Immediately after, warning horns blared throughout Dragonstone City. A large number of monsters are attacking Dragonstone City. All adventurers, prepare for battle. The monsters are attacking the city. Women and children, retreat to the underground shelters. All adventurers and men took up their weapons and went out of the city to fight. When the adventurers went outside to form their defensive lines, they were utterly shocked. "My God, all of these monsters have appeared at once. There's also a huge number of flying monsters. Those are locusts. They're flying this way too. Mages. Use your magic to take down those flying monsters, quickly." Before the words were even finished, a rain of arrows descended, piercing through them. Model. Cutting through the crowd of adventurers was a swarm of demonic tyrant locusts. Han Yu had ordered them to eliminate the adventurers up ahead to clear a path for his monster army. However, these adventurers were no pushovers. Many adventurers ran outside the city walls, unleashing magic spells to attack the locusts in the sky. Fortunately, the locusts were prepared. They swarmed high into the air, escaping the range of the attacks and minimizing casualties. At that moment, a monster army advanced to storm the city gate. The two sides clashed fiercely, resulting in heavy casualties for both. Han Yu stood on high, observing the battle's progression from above. Seeing the adventurers slowly gaining the upper hand, Han Yu gave the order, "Little Skeleton, Bone Reviver, prepare to move out." Immediately after, each of them mounted a tyrant locust and flew onto the battlefield. In an instant, a vast number of the adventurers' corpses twitched back to life, transforming into skeleton soldiers. They grabbed their weapons and charged straight at their former comrades. This caught the adventurers completely off guard, and they quickly began to lose ground. The dwarf hero wielding an iron mace smashed the city gate open in one blow. Inside the city, the four heroes could no longer sit still. The Rose Saintess was the first to act. She activated her heroic ultimate, Rose Forest. Countless thorny rose vines sprouted and intertwined, forming a solid wall. They thought they could easily break through the wall of roses, but the Dragon Slayer used his flowing fire slash skill, creating a wall of fire that incinerated countless monsters, holding the Legion at bay outside the gate. This bought the adventurers more time to regroup and prepare for the enemy. A large number of mages gathered in one spot, combining their powers to cast a joint offensive spell. They created a gigantic fireball that rained down from the sky, causing the monsters to drop like flies. Meanwhile, in the central square of Dragon City, the Dragon Slayer was about to complete his dragon-slaying ritual. He excitedly announced, "Adventurers, push back these invaders, and I will slay this dragon for all of us to feast upon." Seeing the situation, Han Yu ordered the bone controller to move out. In a flash, the skeletons scattered across the battlefield began to stir and rise. Countless white bones flew towards the bone controller, and under its summoning command, they formed a colossal bone giant that towered thousands of feet high. It strode majestically toward the gate, completely unfazed as the flames licked its body, leaving not a single scorch mark. The bone giant grabbed the thorny rose vines and tore them out by the roots, clearing a path for the monster army to pass. Han Yu led the legion straight into the city, shouting, "Ifi, I'm here to save you." The black dragon, breathing weakly on the execution block, suddenly snapped its eyes wide open, as if in disbelief. Was this a hallucination before death? It froze for several seconds before it could confirm the familiar figure, standing as tall as a great mountain. It spoke, "You, why have you come here?" On the high platform, the four heroes stared down in fury at the square, now swarming with invading monsters. What a humiliation! Since the city's founding, no monster had ever dared to brazenly breach its gates and enter. The history they had taken pride in for generations had just been shattered. The Dragon Slayer sneered coldly. "Don't you know your own limits? You actually dare to charge in here?" The extreme martial saint, radiating an explosive aura, roared in anger. Just a puny little monster dares to act so insolently in Dragon City. "I'll tear you to shreds." With that, he leaped down, aiming his fist straight at Han Yu and roaring, "Die for me." He knew Han Yu was the leader of the rampaging army. If he died, the monsters would become a headless snake and retreat. Unfortunately for him, Han Yu's retainers were not to be underestimated. The Bull Demon King stepped forward, swinging a steel club to block his fist, then swiftly struck him across the jaw, bellowing, "To insult my god is a death sentence." You could say that the Bull Demon King's class was on par with the Extreme Martial Saints, and neither could gain an advantage over the other. The other three heroes, unwilling to be outdone, began their attack. The Rose Saintess summoned countless thorny vines to strike at Han Yu. The red-chained dwarf, wielding a divine mace imbued with the power of fire, unleashed an earthly hellfire that incinerated the rose vines to ash. The Dragon Slayer glared at him with pure hatred. He gritted his teeth in fury, wanting nothing more than to lunge forward and flay him alive. "Just a few more minutes. I was only a few minutes away. How dare you ruin my grand achievement?" Han Yu was like a lingering ghost, haunting him and ruining all his great plans. It was the same last time, and it was the same again now. The Dragon Slayer activated his heroic ultimate, Dragon Slaying Domain, summoning several dragon souls that charged ferociously towards Han Yu as he shrieked, "All of you, just die." Just as a dragon was about to bite Han Yu's head off, the Bone Giant suddenly rushed in and smashed it across the jaw. As the Bone Giant and the Dragon Souls were locked in a fierce battle, the Bone Lord suddenly appeared, rubbing his bald head and whining, "I'm so hungry." Instantly, it leaped onto another dragon's head and opening its mouth to devour it and soothe its agonizing hunger. In a flash, the dragon was overwhelmed, unable to resist any longer as its body slowly vanished into the void. It was clear the Dragon Soul was severely wounded, and in the end, it was completely consumed by the Dry Bone Lord. The Dragon Slayer noticed the Dry Bone Lord's vile act and flew into a rage, raising his great sword and swinging it wildly toward the creature. He roared, "You dare devour my dragon soul? You deserve to die." Caught off guard, the Dry Bone Lord was instantly shattered into pieces. The Dragon Slayer let out a sigh of relief, but before he could leave, the Dry Bone Lord suddenly reformed. It quickly sprang up, leaped forward, and continued to frantically gnaw on the dragon soul. The Dragon Slayer was fuming, watching helplessly as he could do nothing but shout, "Just what kind of monster are you?" Meanwhile, Han Yu took advantage of the four heroes fighting his familiars. He rushed over to the Black Dragon and summoned Fenrir to chew through its chains, setting it free. Hearing the sound of the chains breaking, the dragon felt a deep sense of gratitude towards Han Yu. The Black Dragon had thought that after being captured and taken to Dragonfall City, its life was about to come to an end. Unexpectedly, Han Yu had brought reinforcements to rescue it. It spoke sincerely, "You truly are a reliable partner. The great rebel, Black Dragon Akfi, will always remember you." Han Yu casually tossed a few dark star stones into the Black Dragon's mouth to help it recover, then suggested, "In that case, serve me for another 100 years to repay my kindness." At the same time, he kept an eye on his familiars, who were struggling in their direct confrontation with the four adventurer heroes. The outcome was as expected. It wasn't long before they were all on the losing end. The dwarf, Divine Hammer, had been pierced by the rose's thorns and was severely injured. Han Yu noticed this and immediately ordered the Locust Man to join the fight and support Divine Hammer. Fighting head-on like this wasn't going to work. If they didn't escape this situation soon, his entire army would be annihilated. After savoring the delicious Dark Star stones, a resolute glint appeared in the Black Dragon's eyes. "My dear friend, I, the great rebel Black Dragon Akfi, have decided to give you a gift." Han Yu was in a hurry. He was in no mood to care about what kind of gift it was. He was too busy trying to figure out how to break the stalemate. The Black Dragon spoke again. "The great rebel Black Dragon Akfi will bestow upon you a title. My dear friend, from this day forward, you too shall be a great rebel." As it finished speaking, a beam of purple light shot from the Black Dragon's pupils and into Han Yu. Ancient sounds began to echo in his mind. Although he couldn't make out the full meaning of this chant, He understood its general purpose. It would help him become a newly minted rebel. In an instant, Han Yu felt an immense power surging throughout his body. He began to level up, directly breaking through to the special class, Rebel. Han Yu quickly swung his greatsword at the Dragon Slayer, unleashing 3 skills at once: Black Dragon's Echo, Dark Burst, and Dragon Slash. These 3 skills alone were comparable to the power of a high-level master. With this incredible power, Han Yu's strike was clearly a one-shot kill attempt. Faced with Han Yu's counterattack, the Dragon Slayer reacted quickly, using his own greatsword to block the blow. However, under Han Yu's overwhelming strength, his whole body trembled. He gritted his teeth, struggling to hold on until he coughed up a torrent of blood. While the Dragon Slayer was focused on dealing with Han Yu, the Dry Bone Lord seized the opportunity. It agilely leaped out from behind him and gently pierced its hand straight through his back. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone, it had both eliminated the enemy and saved Han Yu. The Dry Bone Lord lingered over the Dragon Slayer's corpse and cast Summon Dry Bone Knight. In a flash, the corpse began to wither as an essence of flesh, blood, and bone escaped the body and floated into the air. This one was very different from a normal skeleton knight. It was a mutated life form, a hero's bloodbone. Han Yu arrived just in time, sending the Rose Saintess tumbling to the ground with a powerful kick. Standing beside Divine Hammer, Han Yu cheered him on. Divine Hammer, however she hit you, pay her back double. Like a demon emerging from hell, Divine Hammer excitedly advanced on the Rose Saintess. It only took him a few seconds to smash her to pieces. Next, Han Yu went over to where the Sword Wasp was dueling the Icefire Sword Hero. Since both were master swordsmen, they could tell the other's intentions with a single glance, making it a difficult and evenly matched fight. When Han Yu arrived to help, the 2 of them teamed up, attacking the Icefire Sword Hero with a dual sword assault and quickly taking him down on the spot. Now, only the ultimate martial saint hero was left. Seeing that he was alone and outmatched, unable to defeat the massive army of monsters, he desperately tried to escape. But unfortunately, he hadn't gotten far before the hero's Bloodbone and the Dry Bone Lord blocked his path. While he was still, staring ahead in shock, a bull demon leaped up and, in the blink of an eye, smashed him from behind with a thick wooden log. He was killed on the spot, and the monster army successfully breached the fortress in Duolong City, wiping out all 5 heroes tasked with defending it. They roared and cheered thunderously for this glorious victory. You have to understand, they had fought against adventurers for millennia, and they finally had a chance to turn the tables and snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. Han Yu stood high above, looking down at the monsters below, and announced that the monster army had completely cleared the city. Any spoils you've gathered can be brought to me in exchange for spirit stones. As soon as these words were spoken, the monster army erupted in a frenzy of cheers. Long live, long live. Han Yu bent down and presented a bag filled with dark spirit stones to the Black Dragon. He offered it as a congratulatory gift, saying, "My friend, I hope you return to your peak form soon." The Black Dragon was so moved by his sincere wish that it shed tears, smiling happily as it said, "Thank you, my friend." Through his sincere actions, Han Yu finally won over the Black Dragon, who now willingly pledged to follow and assist him. Right at that moment, the recruitment teacher appeared with an announcement. Han Yu, congratulations, you've completed the mission. You've performed a miracle. The teleportation channel is ready. I'll give you 3 hours to sort through all your spoils of war. Han Yu glanced over all of Duolong City, and without a second thought, he blurted out, "Thank you, sir. Could I establish a stable teleportation gate here, connected to my divine domain? I am willing to hand over all the spoils of war I have." The recruitment teacher on the other side clasped his hands together, asking with a thoughtful expression, "It's understandable that you want to put down roots in a well-established civilization, but have you considered the potential dangers? Setting up a stable teleportation gate is simple, but what happens if an external civilization launches a counterattack on your divine domain through that gate? If you're not careful, the very core of your divine domain could be compromised." The teacher clearly laid out the pros and cons of this matter, so Han Yu could make a careful decision. The fact that he made this request proved that Han Yu was determined to see it through. He said firmly, "Sir, I've already thought it through." The recruitment teacher respected Han Yu's decision and said, "Very well then. Within 10 days, I will help you stabilize the teleportation gate and provide you with an early warning device. The moment a powerful individual from an external civilization uses the gate to teleport, you will receive a warning. The warning from the device will only take a few minutes to reach you. This would give Han Yu a little extra time to prepare to face external enemies without being caught in a surprise ambush." He once again thanked the teacher for his thoughtful consideration. Over the next 10 days, Han Yu actively handled all the arrangements. He completely transformed Duolong City into a magnificent and orderly monster stronghold. Before leaving, Han Yu gave a private instruction to the Skeleton Lord. I'm leaving Duolong City under your management. I'll also leave the Skeleton Clan and the Bull Demon Guardians to prevent any counterattacks from adventuring guilds. If Duolong City cannot be saved, teleport back to the Divine Domain as soon as possible. Don't lose too many of our kin over this. Han Yu was like a fretful mother about to go on a long journey, giving endless instructions to her young child. The Skeleton Lord nodded and replied, I understand. Only then did Han Yu feel at ease. He returned to his divine domain with his spoils of war, along with the dwarven blacksmith, Shen Shui, Zhan Shi Jianfeng, and the Black Dragon. When he returned to the academy, Han Yu appeared with a strangely different look than usual. Tian Wen hurriedly asked, Han Yu, what's wrong with your eyes? Confused, he took out his phone to check his reflection, and suddenly saw that his eyes were pitch black, with gleaming golden pupils that seemed to have a hypnotic power. Han Yu, it's probably due to your special class, the rebel. He immediately went to check his personal information. A detailed status screen appeared right in front of him. Han Yu, divine creature level, with talents, the chosen one, rebellion, and divine abilities like accelerated growth and life sacrifice, and the skills giant blade slash, dark infusion, violent dragon slash, and black dragon transformation. He had obtained 3 divinity points, 200,000 divine power, and his core level had reached level 10. Han Yu's attention was drawn to the rebellion talent. It was a bit different from the other entries, so he was eager to see its effects, but unfortunately, a notification popped up. You must reach the demigod level to be qualified to check this talent's level. Han Yu felt a pang of disappointment. There was nothing he could do, so he had to give up for now. Tian Wen and the recruitment teacher didn't know what the change in Han Yu's eyes meant, but for now, they could conclude that it was most likely a good thing. The recruitment teacher greeted him warmly and proposed, Han Yu, you have excellently completed Jingxi Academy's assessment. With this, you have secured a spot as a preparatory student at Jingxi Academy. However, if you want to officially enroll in Jingxi Academy, you still need to meet certain conditions. Han Yu asked with confusion, what kind of conditions? The teacher said, to become a preparatory student at Jingxi Academy, you still need to have special skills and must satisfy at least one of them. 2 of the following 4 conditions. First, your core kin must become a naturally born elite life form. Second, you must nurture a hero-level life form. Third, your own divinity must be 4 points or higher. And finally, you must have a saint in your possession. In your current situation, you've already met the second condition. Therefore, you need to fulfill one more condition before you can enter Jingxi Academy as a probationary student. Han Vu said worriedly. At this late stage, that's just too difficult. The teacher offered some encouragement before turning to leave. Han Vu, you have to keep trying. The gates of Jingxi Academy are opening for you. Han Vu turned to Tian Wen, signaling for help. Sir, is there any way you can help me get one more divinity point as soon as possible? Tian Wen frowned, his voice tinged with helplessness. It's too late. If you had told me this a day earlier, I could have left a divinity point for you. But now, I've used up all my divinity points. Besides, there will be a school-wide evaluation in 28 days, and the reward is 1 divinity point. Han Vu stared at Tian Wen, his eyes filled with existential doubt. He couldn't bring himself to believe his teacher 100%. Seeing his expression, Teacher Tian looked a little helpless, but spoke firmly. Han Vu, get that doubtful look off your face. I swear on my honor that what I've said is the truth. Han Vu returned to his divine domain and began to take stock of his spoils of war. Forced to make an all-or-nothing bet, Han Vu decided to perform a life sacrifice. But unfortunately, there was no divinity point this time. The next day, he performed another sacrifice, and still, no divinity points. 7 days passed with Han Vu continuously performing sacrifices, but he still hadn't obtained a single divinity point. He was extremely frustrated and filled with regret. He once had a divinity card in his hands, but he didn't treasure it. He'd exchanged it for just 150 million divine power points. Now that he needed it, it was too late for regrets. Han Vu wished he had Doraemon's anywhere door to go back and fix his foolish mistake. He prayed earnestly, if the heavens give me another chance, I will hold on to that divinity card and I will never sell it, not even if you beat me to death. Suddenly, Han Vu received a message from Yuan Zhang, who wanted to know the origin of that sacred artifact. He was suddenly jolted out of his despair. He had to remember that Yuan Zhang was a true god. If he wanted to borrow a divinity point from him, maybe he wouldn't refuse, right? Han Vu immediately sent the message. On the other end, Yuan Zhang hesitated. A single divinity point. Even for this great god, it would be as valuable as what a high-level demigod could produce. Why would he ask to borrow a divinity point right off the bat? Even though they were partners in a mutually beneficial collaboration, he couldn't afford to offend him, so Zhang decided to agree to lend it to him. Very quickly, a gift box was sent to Han Vu. He excitedly opened it to find a Divine River Ruins card inside. Not knowing what it was, he went online to look it up. The Divine River Ruins were an abandoned Divine River civilization. In its development phase, it could be considered an engineering marvel, but due to excessive research in this field, the mineral structure of this plane has changed, and it now carries a certain amount of radiation. Many different life forms living in this area have been affected by it, and over 90% of them have mutated, becoming genetically disordered monsters. To survive, these monsters can only consume more radioactive ore to enhance their mutations, fighting poison with poison. Inside the bodies of these mutated monsters, crystals are synthesized that can absorb the mutated, aberrant genes. This type of stone is called a gene stone. It has a miraculously special effect on nurturing one's kin. Although it's of the lowest tier, it's comparable to a tier 3 sacred artifact and is worth millions of divine power. It's quite popular among demigods, and even true gods. Looking at all this information, Han Vu stared in confusion at the gift Zhang had sent. He exclaimed, Zhang, you really think highly of me, don't you? Sending a divine being like me to compete with demigods for gene stones? I wonder how much divine power I could sell this ticket for. Suddenly, Han Vu's attention was caught by a trending news story. It was about some god king who bought faulty radioactive ore, causing his artificial mutated beast farm, an investment of hundreds of billions in divine power, to go bankrupt. He felt that he held the winning hand and could solve this business deal. Because he had a decomposer machine in his possession, which could be used to refine even low-grade radioactive ore into radiation crystals. After the mutated beasts consume them, they can transform and condense even stronger gene stones. However, he needed to go to the site to check it out with his own eyes. At a small town outside the Divine River Ruins area, Han Vu put on a mask, transforming into Kit, carefully concealing his identity. After all, he wasn't familiar with this place, so ensuring his personal safety had to be the top priority. Immediately after, Han Vu noticed a man with bright blonde hair approaching him. Respected Lord God, this must be your first time visiting, yes? The Luohe Ruins, right? I'm guessing you're in need of an honest and reliable guide. Han Yu cleared his throat, slightly altering his voice as he said, give me one reason why I should hire you. The man replied with a serious expression. I know of 18 gathering spots for mutated beasts within the Shenhe ruins, and the beasts at each spot have their own unique characteristics. I also know about the various supply points in town. I know who's honest, who's crooked, and who just likes to cause trouble. I guarantee you, my lord, that I can get you the best price for the gene stones you hunt. I also know Han Yu quickly cut him off before he could boast any further, saying, right now, I just want to know if anyone here sells radioactive ore. The man's brow furrowed as a cold smirk appeared on his face. So, my lord came all this way just for some radioactive ore? And that's all for this video. That was a recap of the story. If you have any thoughts, please leave them in the comments section below. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more exciting videos. For now, goodbye and see you in the next one. Bye-bye.